Facts that will mess with your perception of time. Mean Girls is more of a classic movie today than The Breakfast Club was when Mean Girls was originally released. Rebecca Black has doubled in age since Friday was released in 2011. This is what AI video looked like just 1 year ago. And this is what AI video looks like now.
There's a trend going around right now where women are asking their male partners if they would rather the woman be stuck in the woods with a random man or a bear.
Would you rather me be stuck in the woods with a bear or a random man?
Man.
Most men are questioning why women are answering bear.
Kim Kardashian, you know what I mean?
Right.
That I was at the wedding and I caught the bouquet. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. First thing to catch from her that didn't need a shot of penicillin.
I'm back, and today we're gonna be taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. If you guys like this video, subscribe. If you also like the change, check the link down in the description. Make sure to stay till the end of this video, it gets crazy.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your day. In 1906, a man in Morocco was sentenced to be walled alive after he was found guilty of unaliving 36 people. For 2 full days, people could hear him crying from inside the wall. There have been reports of these vacuum toilets and airplanes sucking out people's insides. When 14-year-old George Finney was executed by electric chair, he was too short to fit into the chair, so he had to sit on a copy of the Bible. Later, he was found innocent. The average person spends 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. If you have red eyes after swimming, it's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. And be careful the next time you're on an escalator, because there's been many cases of escalators eating people alive. Follow for more.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. You are the oldest that you have ever been and the youngest that you will ever be. Your bed absorbs 26 gallons of your sweat every year. There are 15 dead people for every 1 person alive. Science can't measure exactly how strong a gorilla is, so there's no sure way on how to contain them. The gorilla enclosures at zoos are just based on trust. Every 18 minutes, someone in the United States has a brain aneurysm that ruptures. Vampire moths are real and can feed on the blood of humans. A jar of peanut butter contains 10 or more rodent hairs and can contain up to hundreds of insect fragments. Big Bird almost joined NASA's Challenger mission to help kids become more interested in space. Millions of kids would have watched Big Bird and the Challenger space shuttle explode on live television.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the most disturbing, but this is definitely top 5. This is Malgas Island, and up to 60,000 of these birds called Cape Gannets will nest here. But don't worry, I'm gonna get to it. So normally these parents take turns, with one going out for food with the other staying behind to guard the chick. But because of overfishing, oftentimes both parents will go out for food, leaving the chick all alone on the island. Which wouldn't be a problem if they didn't know that. Because groups of these white pelicans will fly over to the islands and then walk around looking for any unsupervised gannet chicks, so that they can grab the baby birds and eat them alive while they're still struggling. And sometimes they'll just push the parents out the way and then swallow the newborn children right in front of them. It somehow gets worse. Those same pelicans will fly back to their nest and vomit the half-digested, recently murdered baby birds for the pelican chicks to eat. And because Cape Gannets have no real way to defend themselves, pelicans have no reason to stop. And since pelicans obviously don't have teeth, those chicks' last moments were spent suffocating while being digested alive by stomach acid, only to get regurgitated and eaten twice. Dinosaurs never went extinct. They just rebranded with feathers.
It's funny he said that at the end right there, because I was about to say, a lot of people believe that dinosaurs did not have scales. They actually had a lot of feathers on them. What do you think about that?
Recently, Stephen Stearns was officially charged with the murder of Madeline Soto, his girlfriend's daughter. Now he has been indicted on first-degree murder charges. The indictment alleges that Stearns between February 26th and 27th, 3 to 4 days before her body was found on March 1st. He was the last person with her, and he claimed that she got out of the car to walk to school. But when she never showed up for school and her body was later found, he was being investigated as the primary suspect. And now he has been charged and indicted on first-degree murder. He has also been charged with over 60 child SA charges. Stearns was supposed to be arraigned yesterday when he would enter his plea, but that arraignment was canceled and it's unclear why or when it will be rescheduled. So he has not yet entered a plea. But as of now, Stearns is scheduled to go to trial on July 16th with a pretrial hearing on July 10th. It's unclear what Stearns will end up pleading, and if he does plead guilty, that will all change. But if he pleads not guilty, he will go to a jury trial. But hopefully, Madeline will get the justice that she deserves.
Photos with disturbing backstories. Praying for a teammate that was murdered. The killer was present. Simon Doonan preparing for rescue. Suffocated after rescuing 13 people.
What really happened to Maddie Bosch, a police officer who was abducted from her home while investigating a serial rapist? Was she getting too close to his identity, or is something larger at play, like her being a key witness in a wrongful death case against the LAPD? In cases of abduction, time is against the victim, and no one knows that better than her father, Harry Bosch, a private investigator and former LAPD detective. He's a man who won't let anything stop him from finding his daughter, even the law. He's also the main character of Bosch Legacy on Amazon Freevee. Get ready for a wild ride because season 2 just got released. Stream on Freevee or wherever Prime Video is available.
This is the scariest song in the world, and here's why. Okay, so we all heard this song before, especially if you're into scary things and watch the Insidious movies. But do you know the very disturbing and chilling backstory behind this song? Well, the song is called Tiptoe Through the Tulips, and it was recorded and released in 1968 by American singer Tiny Tim. And when the song was first released, it didn't have the scary reputation it has now. However, this would change during his last ever live performance of the song. On September 28, 1996, Tiny Tim suffered a heart attack that was pretty miniature while performing at a music festival. And after this happened, his doctors advised him that he wasn't healthy enough to perform on stage anymore. However, Tiny Tim ignored the advice from his doctors and scheduled another concert at a women's club in Minnesota the next month. But right before his performance, he told his wife that he wasn't feeling that good. Nevertheless, Tiny Tim decided to go on stage anyway. And after performing the last song of the night, he suffered a major heart attack on stage and died in front of the crowd. And the song he was performing was Tiptoe Through the Tulips. This song was already terrifying, but it's 100 times more terrifying after knowing this. Now listen to it again after knowing this.
Bro, if a doctor is telling you, yo, do not go on stage and perform again, why would you go on stage and perform again? He also didn't even feel good. He was like, you know, I don't feel good. My doctor did tell me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Disturbing brain facts you didn't know about. The brain will protect itself even if it means misery to you or death. Inhaling smoke in the middle of a burning house. Brain will make you stop breathing and pass out. Stuck in the middle of a cold place. You will fall asleep to conserve energy and never wake up again. Had your leg torn off by a bear. Here's adrenaline. So you can save your brain even if there's a huge risk of infection or further injury. You and your brain work together most of the time, but when push comes to shove, you are sacrificed.
It's hilarious that he was saying that you and your brain, like, we're not the same people. At the same time, it's kind of like true because realistically, you and your brain are like two separate entities. At least you and your subconscious. So conscious versus subconscious. So that's what I'm pretty sure he means by you and your brain. Your conscious versus your subconscious.
Scary facts you wish you never knew. On September 26th of 2021, a huge asteroid actually almost hit Earth, and NASA didn't detect it until a day later. So yeah, we were almost done for. Believe it or not, but humans do have a natural predator, and it kills around 2 to 3 million people a year. And we still have no clue how to stop it yet. This creature is the mosquito. Did you know TikTok has a secret emoji? Type shout with the bars around it on your keyboard and see what you unlock. Dr. Carl Tanzler was in love with one of his patients. Her name was Elena, but sadly she passed away. Carl then snuck into her tomb, stole her body, brought her back to his house, and kept her in there for 7 years. For that whole time, her body was slowly rotting away. He would prop her up on the bed like a mannequin. And the only reason he was caught was because somebody saw him dancing with her in front of his open window. You can check if your phone is being monitored right now. Just click on share, slide to the very end, click more, and if any unknown apps appear before your contacts, you should delete them immediately. 3 a.m. is known as the devil's hour. It is said that during that hour, the veil between our world and the paranormal world is thin. No wonder you always wake up at 3 a.m. Studies show that people who like and follow me get smarter every day, so you know what to do.
People Who Escape Serial Killers Part 2. Carol Durant narrowly escaped the clutches of Ted Bundy, who confessed to killing 30 women and girls. In 1974, as Carol walked to her car, Ted Bundy approached her dressed as a police officer and showed her a fake badge. He told her that someone attempted to break into her car, and that she needed to go down to the police station with him and file a police report. She ended up getting into his Volkswagen Bug and they drove to an elementary school and she was really confused. That's when Bundy quickly managed to handcuff one of her wrists, and he tried to knock her unconscious with a crowbar. Luckily, Carol managed to fight him off and flee. Carol's account to police led to an officer pulling him over and searching his car. The officer found a ski mask, cuffs, and other incriminating items. Bundy was arrested and escaped authorities several times. He was arrested for a final time on February 12, 1978, and he told the officer, "I wish you had killed me." Bundy was executed by the electric chair on January 24, 1989. Hundreds of people celebrated in a field nearby the prison with fireworks and dancing.
You know, I know Ted Bundy's a very common face in my videos, but as I keep watching things about him, he seemed like a normal dude that just had like a lot of weird fetishes and problems. Scary. You gotta be careful who you're around, man.
Facts that will mess with your perception of time. Mean Girls is more of a classic movie today than The Breakfast Club was when Mean Girls was originally released. Rebecca Black has doubled in age since Friday was released in 2011. This is what AI video looked like just 1 year ago. And this is what AI video looks like now. Clint Eastwood's parents would not have been able to celebrate the birth of their son with a can of beer. That's because Clint Eastwood was born in 1930 and canned beer wasn't even a thing until 1935. This is Nancy Pelosi attending JFK's inauguration in 1961 as a 20-year-old. We know of bowhead whales that have lived for more than 200 years, so any bowheads that managed to live through the golden age of American whaling in the 19th century could still be swimming in the ocean today. When novels became popular in the 1700s, the media thought that young people were reading too much. They were calling it the reading rage, the reading fever, and the reading mania. The oldest currently working train engine in the world was built when slavery was still legal in the United States.
That's crazy because nowadays people actually recommend reading a lot. They're like, yo, read a book, read, don't go online. But now everyone's like, oh, kids are on social media too much, they're on their phones too much. I bet something in the future is going to be like, oh, wow, kids are on their Telegrams too much or something. I don't know. And the phones are going to become like the new books. Like no one's really going to be on a phone anymore. They're going to be on their like teleprompter, like, you know what I'm saying?
I was forced to stay awake for 30 days straight. They call it the Russian sleep experiment. They put 5 of us into a room and released a gas that made it impossible to go to sleep. We were all captured war prisoners. They were studying us to see what would happen to a human if they stay awake for 30 days. Day 1 everything seemed fine. We were promised freedom after we completed the experiment. But as the days went by, our conversations grew darker. Paranoia took hold, tearing us apart. On day 9, one of us started screaming uncontrollably until his vocal cords gave out. The rest of us smeared our own feces over the glass so they couldn't see us. On the 15th day, they needed to know what was happening. They turned off the gas and opened the doors. They were not ready for the horrific scene they were about to walk into, flesh torn. We consumed our own bodies, desperate to stay awake. We didn't want to leave anymore. We begged them to turn the gas back on, but they refused to help us. Somehow we were able to survive all this, but we knew it would be the end when we fell asleep. Remember us, remember our torment.
This is the first mugshot that was released in South Korea. Since South Korea just passed a law in 2024 that serious criminal offenders' recent mugshots can be released for 30 days. In the past, without the criminal's consent, police could not release mugshots. And in rare times for serious criminal offenders, they were able to reveal the photos, but only of old photos, not the recent mugshots. So people were complaining that, well, this guy's photo that was released looks very different from recent of what he looks like. As the new law went into effect, Kim Le, 26 years old, he's arrested for unaliving his girlfriend and putting his girlfriend's mother in critical condition. According to his ex-girlfriends, they claim that he had an obsessive personality. He would tell them what to wear and what not to wear, go through their phones, contact her coworkers and friends if he had an inkling that they were with another male. When his recent girlfriend that he was living with decided to break up with him because of his obsessive personality, she left the apartment and decided to come back to talk to him nicely, I guess, with her mother as a protection. Within 3 minutes, he would attack his girlfriend and the mother. Here's him after the attack in the CCTV footage. According to the security guard, he ran in claiming that somebody was after him and he was all bloody. He filed a petition to not get his recent mugshot revealed, but it did fail. The court said, yes, everybody should know your face, but it's only up for 30 days. Of course, the online does its thing. We know his name, what he does now. I'm not sure what the point of is for just 30 days. Why not for a year or forever? This is a great news and good law, but I do think that this should apply to even like scammers and frauders, not just serious criminal offenders when it comes to maybe murders. I dive more and deeper into criminal cases on my YouTube, link in my bio.
This story is going viral right now for obvious reasons. So back in March of 2022, 4 men were arrested for gang raping, murdering, and then eating a monitor lizard. They apparently took turns doing those things to the animal before cooking it up and eating it in one of India's most protected forest preserves, where that monitor lizard was the only one in the park. This took place on March 29th at the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve, and the men were arrested after one of the forest camera traps, which is meant for tracking tigers, caught the men trespassing the reserve's national park. They were arrested sometime between April 1st and April 5th, and after checking their phones, authorities found photos and videos of what they did to that poor animal. I mean, all 4 of them collectively agreed to do that inside of the animal. Then they all decided to eat it, and they were proud of it by taking photos and videos of what they did. These are the names of the men that did that. They were all locals, and they were charged under India's Wildlife Protection Act because monitor lizards are protected and endangered in India.
Something weird has just been discovered about the missing flight MH370. It happened a while ago. Many of you know it here, but this has just been found. Now, I'm no expert, but this is supposed to be some sort of satellite imagery of the plane. You can see it flying right here. This is the flight MH370. Now, you're going to see some crazy stuff start to happen. There's this object number 1 that starts circling the plane. All of a sudden, there is a second object and then a third object. You see them swirling in this like organized fashion around the plane. You can see the satellite image changing positions. And I'm literally at a loss for words. Like, what the heck? These things are circling the plane like they're trying to do something. And then all of a sudden, the plane is going to go poof and disappear. Look at it, it's just gone. What the heck is happening? Is this legit? Like, what the freak is happening?
I'm low-key sitting here like, yo, I wonder what those people on that plane experienced. Like, imagine being on that plane and next thing you know, you're just like, yo, why are like 3 orbs circling us right now? The next thing you know, you're just like what? Is it just black? Or is it just like you're in a different, like, what do you experience?
Darkest Conspiracy Theories, Part 2. The Bohemian Grove Club. The Bohemian Grove Club is a place located in the woods of California. It is a club filled with the world's most powerful people and the world's wealthiest. It has around 2,600 members. I'm talking politicians, actors, artists, presidents, writers, mostly anyone with a big name that possesses a lot of power. And there's still a huge waiting list of powerful people waiting to join. Each year they meet up to discuss what's gonna happen next in the world. JP Morgan was a part of this club, Clint Eastwood, and even Ronald Reagan. It's more like a cult than a club. People like Albert Einstein and Robert Oppenheimer even discussed the Manhattan Project there, which led to the world's first atomic bomb, taking the lives of millions of people. When it goes down, they worship an ancient owl god statue, in which they give fake sacrifices to. Yeah, they make a human shape out of sticks and twigs and put it in the fire.
Hail, fellowship's eternal flame! Once again, midsummer sets us free!
My only question is, what other huge world events are being discussed and planned as we speak?
There's a trend going around right now where women are asking their male partners if they would rather the woman be stuck in the woods with a random man or a bear.
Would you rather me be stuck in the woods with a bear or a random man?
Most men are questioning why women are answering bear. and why women would prefer to be stuck in the woods with a bear than a random man. But while there are many, many reasons, here are just a few why I would personally choose bear. Shanann Watts and her children were murdered by her husband, Chris Watts. Lacey Peterson and her unborn child were murdered by her husband, Scott Peterson. Gabby Petito was murdered by her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie. Hannah Clark and her children were murdered by her estranged husband, Rowan Baxter. Anna Walsh was murdered by her husband, Brian Walsh. Jennifer Farber-Dulos was murdered by her ex-husband, Fotis Dulos. Grace Mullane was murdered by her Tinder date, Shane Kempson. And Suzanne Morphew was allegedly murdered by her husband, Barry Morphew. Meanwhile, there have been only 180 fatal bear attacks in North America in the last 240 years. But that's just a few reasons why I would pick bear. It's not all men, but there are many.
Bear or man, wow. Honestly, whatever she picks, that's her preference, but it also depends on the type of bear. If I'm being honest, if you're stuck in the woods with a polar bear, or I forgot the other type of bear, a grizzly bear, I think it is. I think the black bears are the common one. If you're stuck in the woods with like a polar, you're not gonna find a polar bear in the woods. But if you're stuck with a polar bear or like a grizzly bear, the really aggressive ones, it's guaranteed death. You know what I'm saying? If me and you, let's say you're a female, if me and you are in the woods, I'm not doing jack shit. If anything, I'm gonna help you help me. You know, like, we're not gonna be out here doing no, I'm just gonna no. Like, of course there's gonna be like 10 in 1,000 men that are gonna be on some weird shit. But I'd say some of us aren't that weird. But with a bear, you're kind of asking to get killed. What do you think about that? Put your thoughts in the comments, because that one's very controversial right now.
There's an interesting development in the baby reindeer show. Online super sleuths have been trying to determine the identity of Martha, the woman portrayed in the show as Richard Gadd's stalker. Now, Richard is imploring people to stop trying to use their sleuthing skills to uncover Martha's true identity, because that was not his intent or the point of the show. He also says that they went to great lengths to try and make it difficult to uncover Martha's real identity. However, in many true crime groups I'm in, people think otherwise and believe they have found Martha. This has led to a discussion about online sleuths, as well as, keeping people anonymous when they are featured in a show like this. There are also others who have gotten caught up in this saga, including people who think they've identified Gadd's abuser. But he really is imploring people to stop trying to uncover this and just focus on the message of the show and divert that energy into raising awareness about sexual assault and mental health issues. Let me know your thoughts on this development regarding baby reindeer.
The character of Dexter Morgan was inspired by this guy who had a huge account on this app up until last year and was a massive YouTuber as well. This is Pedro Rodriguez Fielho, and if you don't know his story, it is absolutely preposterous. Outside of having one of the most insane tiger tattoos you will ever see, this is one of the most dangerous men in the history of South America. Pedro was born in 1954 in Brazil, and at age 14 he killed the mayor of his town for firing his father for accusing him of stealing food. He also took out the man he thought was responsible for committing the theft, so like Dexter, he got started at a very early age. Now, he went on the run into Sao Paulo. He began robbing drug dealers and killing drug traffickers, getting this massive reputation as a vigilante. The news media, as they do, ate this up, giving him the nickname Pederino Matador. Enough, he fell in love with a woman named Maria Olympia, and he got her pregnant, but she ended up losing her life to a rival gang leader. He made it his mission to hunt down and eliminate every single member of that rival gang. He was arrested in 1973 and sentenced to 126 years in prison. He was arrested at age 19 and stayed in prison until 2007. By the time he got out after 34 years in prison, he had taken 71 lives. In 2011, he was arrested again for crimes he had committed as a prisoner because he was an absolute nut while he was locked up. Released in 2018 and made an insane transition into a YouTube sensation. Starting in 2018 under the username Pederino X Matador, he started this account on YouTube, he started an account on here, and grew a massive following. He would comment on modern crimes and gang violence and tell people not to prop up or support criminals in any way. He spent 5 years doing this good work, trying to make up for this life he had lived, until he was gunned down last year. He was killed in a drive-by and there was never an arrest. His release was supposed to be in 2003. This got a whole lot of press, and he ended up being the main inspiration for the 2004 novel from Jeff Lindsay, Darkly Dreaming Dexter. The rest is history. This man was an absolute monster. He lived an insane life and ended up inspiring one of the best TV characters of all time.
Top 5 of the scariest videos I found online. I bet you can't make it to the end of the video. The last one is scary. Number 5. 3 friends were playing guitar and singing in their room. You know, just having a good time. When something scary appears in the balcony door window. You could see a white figure appear quickly and disappear once the camera pans back. Woo, spicy. Hey, maybe you just like the music. Wanted to do a little dance. Get a little boogie. Get it? Boogie, boo. Please don't unfollow me. Before we get to the next one, can you hit that like button for me? If you get 100,000 hearts, I'll do a part 3. Number 4. A man wakes up to hearing strange noises in his house. When he goes to turn on the lights to see what it is, they seem to not be working. Watch what he sees next. Tired of these ghosts messing with electricity when they do not pay bills. Do you know how much an electric bill is right now? Pay up or get out. Okay, check this out. You're alone in the middle of the night and you're in a hotel when this happens. What's your next move? Let me know down below. Number 3, on the 30th of April, 2022 at 2 a.m., a security camera captured this. Some believe it's a creature dragging a bag, while others believe it's someone walking backwards. A short while after, the security camera catches this. It's the same figure. What do you think this creature is? Number 2. The little girl is in the kitchen alone, and it looks like she's talking to someone. The home security camera captures this. So now they're not paying bills and trying to take our food? This is the last straw. Hello, Ghostbusters. A woman and her child is seeing something in the window, but every time she goes to open it, nothing appears to be there. Watch what happens next. Yeah, it got in the house, and they didn't even realize. Should I do a part 3?
Man disappeared one evening without a trace, and 15 years later, he reappeared on his wife's doorstep.
Jim McDonnell and his wife Ann were living a quiet life in a suburb of New York in 1971. When Jim began to suffer through a curious set of accidents. It started when he slipped on some ice-coated steps one evening, then it progressed into sneezing fits and dizzy spells. On March 29th, Jim left a friend's house saying,
he had a headache and was going to take the 15-minute walk home.
But he never made it back, and at 2 a.m., Jim's wife Ann reported him missing. Detectives searched everywhere, but it was like Jim vanished without a trace. They had no leads, and detectives feared that something awful must have happened on that walk home. For 15 years, Ann McDonnell lived in limbo, not knowing where her husband was or if he was all right. But she never gave up hope that maybe one day she would receive an answer.
And she did.
One fateful Christmas, there was a knock at Ann's front door. She opened it up to a stunning sight. Her husband, Jim McDonnell, was standing on her doorstep. 15 years after his mysterious disappearance, Jim was home. But how?
Where had Jim been the past 15 years?
Jim had suffered amnesia from the numerous accidents leading up to his disappearance and had been living in another city, Philadelphia, for the past 15 years. At some point during that walk home the evening he disappeared, he lost all memory of who he was or where he lived. What happened next remains a mystery. Jim either took the train or a bus, but ended up in Philadelphia and adopted a new name he saw on a billboard advertisement, James Peters. There he stayed for 15 years, starting a new life for himself with none of his memories.
Days before his return, he had fallen again randomly in Philadelphia, and somehow this fall triggered him to regain his memory of his prior life. And as soon as he remembered, he ran straight back to Anne, wondering if she was still alive or if she had remarried. Jim and Anne had no problem picking up where they left off and lived the rest of their lives happily together. And Anne's intuition was right. Never, ever give up hope.
One of the most remarkable true stories I've ever heard. What are your thoughts?
I'm not gonna lie, my thoughts is, what if Jim was just like outside, you know what I'm saying? Jim was outside with another girl. He was like, you know, I'm gonna leave this shorty and go to the next shorty. Then it didn't work out, so he came back. He was like, you know, I kind of just slipped and fell, and like I kind of just forgot who I was. But like as soon as I remembered, I came back. Yo, imagine. I'm just playing, but like that'd be funny as hell if that was the truth.
Creepy story time. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. When Deanne was about 10 years old, her mom used to work as an LPN in a labor and delivery unit. Every night at the end of her mom's shift, Deanne, her dad, and brothers would go pick her mom up. Like usual, Deanne was usually the one that would go in to get her mom while the rest of her family stayed in the car. As Deanne is walking towards the nurse's station, she sees her mom and lets her know that she's there. Her mom grabs her purse and starts to walk towards the lockers. She then asks Deanne if she needed to use the bathroom. Deanne said that she didn't, so her mom went ahead into the bathroom by herself. Now, mind you, the bathroom that her mom went into was a one-person type of bathroom. Deanne saw when she walked in, shut the door. Deanne then proceeded to wait right outside and sit on a bench that was right across the bathroom. Not long after, she sees when the door swings open. Deanne looks in and sees absolutely nothing. Then out of nowhere, she sees this woman just walking out. But this woman is not her mom. She has no idea who this woman is. She was dressed like a typical older woman in her 60s. Her hair was white and gray. She was wearing thin, round glasses. She had on some slacks and like a white top. I mean, Deanne remembers specifically what this woman looked like. As the woman walks out, she shuts the light off in the bathroom and looks down towards the ground. The whole time this was going on, Deanne felt a knot at the pit of her stomach. Something about this was so unsettling to her. The woman had muted, like grayish blue skin, and there was absolutely no expression in her face. The woman just continued off into the hallway. At this point, Deanne is having a panic attack. She's freaking out, wondering where her mom is and who is this woman that just randomly came out of this bathroom. That's when she's about to really lose it. The door swings open again. The light goes off and she sees her mom walk out of the bathroom. A wave of relief literally rushed all over Deanne, and she ran to her mom and gave her the biggest hug. She then asked her who was the woman that was in there with her. Her mom is confused and says, "What woman? I was in there by myself."
Amount of DMs that I got about this. So there's a medium on TikTok who apparently knew back in February that the submersible was going to implode. She kind of saw the disaster coming. This is her account. Her name is Gemma Lonsdale, and although the information was murky, she couldn't give a name or anything like that, anything that would have been preventative. She predicted an impending disaster that was to come, possibly in the coming months, that talked about a passenger ship, or something comparable to the submersible that we know. And what she said is that the passengers on board would face disaster and most likely die as the result of unchecked infrastructure.
Earth's Scariest Places, Part 56. This place is Ballygally Castle, located in Northern Ireland. It's known for its rich history and, of course, its hauntings. Sometime in the 17th century, Lord James Shaw and Lady Isabella occupied the castle. Of course, Lord Shaw wanted a male heir to pass down the kingdom to. After a string of miscarriages and female babies, Lord Shaw was getting increasingly frustrated. He gave Lady Isabella one more chance, and of course, she produced a female baby. Incredibly angry, he decided to lock her in the tower room out of frustration. Eventually, she went crazy. She wasn't allowed to leave the room. The tower was right next to the ocean, and of course, a bunch of rocks below. It got to the point where Lady Isabella couldn't take it anymore. She ended up jumping to her own death. It's said that her spirit still haunts the tower. She's actually a very nice and mischievous ghost, known for knocking on doors and moving things around the room. People have also reported seeing her in a flowing green gown, feeling cold spots, and feeling like they're being watched when they're in the room. And that's why this is one of
14 years before the Titanic sank, a small-town writer predicted the whole thing in a novel. Hauntingly, in 1898, Morgan Robertson wrote The Wreck of the Titan, or Futility. In his book, he wrote of the SS Titan, a massive, unsinkable ship. He wrote, "The Titan struck an iceberg on its journey and sank, becoming one of the world's greatest tragedies." And 14 years later, the Titanic struck an iceberg, sinking and becoming one of the world's greatest tragedies. Morgan's fictional story is almost an exact retelling of the events of the Titanic. Some of the chilling similarities are both ships' names and both being described as unsinkable. Both the fictional Titan and the Titanic ran into trouble after hitting icebergs on the starboard side of the ship. They were both 400 miles off Newfoundland when they sank, both on April nights. In both cases, the passengers suffered tragically due to a shortage of lifeboats. Oh, and both ships were British-owned. There are a few smaller differences, but for the most part, they are the exact same story. After the tragedy of the Titanic, Robertson was accused of being clairvoyant, and it only fueled a lot of conspiracy theories about the sinking of the Titanic. This story blows my mind. I have no idea how anyone could chalk this up to being a coincidence. No way. What are your thoughts?
Bro, it was The Simpsons before The Simpsons even came out. That is exactly like The Simpsons. The Simpsons predicted so many things. They almost predicted Trump's assassination. They pretty much did, except he got saved. Like, I don't know what saved Donald Trump, but like that little, that he did saved his life. Some people believe it's fake, but I don't think it's fake. Like, I don't think I would really fake getting shot.
So I'm sleeping and I can see myself in front of the door. I was not in my body. I was astral projecting and I could see myself just like floating. Everything around me is wavy and fuzzy, and all I could do is just stare at the door. So I then decided to go through the door, and the moment I went through the door, I saw people in the living room, and I was living alone. Like, I was like, who are these people? As soon as I go through the door, I'm in the living room now, and there's these people in the living room just like staring at me, and I'm like really weirded out. One of them looked like my uncle, the others were just a mystery. I didn't know who they were. This is the part that I vividly remember. They were like, hey, he can see us now. This was my first time, and I was a bit scared. I could like feel my heart racing. Es neta, me dio mucho miedo. And then there was like this fast movement of like going back through the door and going back to my body. To this day, I don't know who they were, the people there in the living room. I don't know if they were like my spirit guides or spirits, but I did not recognize them. They were just there in the living room, and as soon as I went through the door, they turned around, they turned their heads and like looked at me.
I don't know if any of you are listening to the podcast Scamanda, but it is wild. It's a story of a woman from California, Amanda Riley, who for 7 years pretended she had cancer and scammed people out of over $100,000 of donations. In 2012, Amanda started a blog after getting diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, trying to document her journey. And in it, she talks about how sick she's getting, about how bad she feels, how chemo's going, how she got pregnant while on chemo, which was a miracle. She even posted photos of herself with a shaved head. And no one suspects a thing. She even has documents from the hospital about her treatment, and she was posting photos from inside the hospital. Come to find out, none of it was real. The whole thing was a lie. In reality, she had set up all these GoFundMes and even started a foundation just so she could pocket all the money, which over the course of 7 years was $105,000, which in California, you can make more money just getting a normal person job. The podcast does a good job of getting into all of this, and it even gets into the weeds on how she stole custody from her new husband's ex-wife over their daughter, and the whole thing is a wild ride.
That situation reminds me of the situation that happened with Gypsy, with how everyone's like, oh my god, Gypsy, the blah blah blah, but her mom was just trying to scam people. It's crazy. I don't get why people would do something like that. Like, it's exactly like she says, like $105,000. You can work a good job and get that much money. It's not like she made like $1 million off of it. It just seems like, just even to me, that's like really that much work just for donations, just to really fool people. That's sick, bro. That's sick. That's what stops the people that actually need donations to actually get people to donate, because they're gonna be like, well, what if this person that's actually dying of stage 5 cancer is playing with me like the other 300 people that did this? Sick.
Kim Kardashian, you know what I mean? Right. That I was at the wedding and I caught the bouquet. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. First thing to catch from her that didn't need a shot of penicillin.
Do you really know about the secrets of Joan Rivers' life, beyond her controversial jokes and countless face changes? 10 years after she passed away, her daughter is now sharing shocking stories about Joan that were kept quiet before. She's also revealed how many times her mom actually had surgery to change her look. In this video, we're going to share all the secrets about Joan Rivers that her daughter just revealed. Some stories will surprise you. Let's dive in.
It was such a dog. To get me down the aisle, they threw a bone. You know what I'm saying?
Joan's early life and career. Joan Rivers was born Joan Alexandra Malinsky in Brooklyn, New York on June 8, 1933. She was the youngest of 2 daughters raised by Russian immigrant parents. Her father was a medical doctor who instilled in her a love of humor that would later become her trademark and profession. Joan Rivers wasn't just a funny lady, but a sharp mind. Having graduated with high honors from Barnard College, she dove headfirst into the blooming world of New York comedy in the 1960s. But I bet you don't know that before the limelight, her talent was evident, and she made notable appearances on shows like Candid Camera. But it was in 1965 that her career truly skyrocketed. She earned a guest spot on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. It became her actual breakout moment, leading to her show, The Joan Rivers Show, in the 1970s. Her razor-sharp wit and self-deprecating humor earned her a vast audience base, and she became a prominent figure on television, appearing on programs like The Carol Burnett Show and Hollywood Squares. But Joan wasn't one to be confined to just performing. She was a multi-talented woman, venturing into writing and directing. In 1973, she co-wrote a TV movie and even directed her film, Rabbit Test, in 1978. By the 1980s, Joan Rivers had become a mainstay on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, gaining prominence through her quick wit and unapologetic humor. Triumphs, losses, and comebacks. Juan's versatility will shock you. Juan's success went beyond the screen as she extended her talent to print. She wrote a bestseller titled The Life and Hard Times of Heidi Abramowitz. It is a hilarious faux autobiography based on one of her signature characters. This literary success was just the beginning, as Rivers went on to pen several more books. However, the 1980s also saw a controversial chapter in her career. In 1986, she launched her late-night talk show on Fox, directly competing with The Tonight Show. This move led to a public falling out with Carson, who saw it as a betrayal of their friendship.
Yeah, there's actually been a lot of things about Joan Rivers, like her with Michelle Obama, her saying that Michelle's actually a dude. Just a lot of things surrounding her. Hopefully she didn't get clapped from the elites because of what she knew. But who knows, honestly.
About money that will blow your mind. There are 1,700 new millionaires in America every day. There are already 25 million people in the United States that are millionaires today. This means that 7.5% of the United States is a millionaire. Singapore has the world's highest percentage of millionaires in their country, with almost 20% of the entire country having more than $1 million US. Annual supply of water bottles can cost up to $200 a year, while tap water will only cost you 33 cents. King Charles made $34 million in rent income last year. Walt Disney fired the creator of Goofy because he tried to start a union. Money laundering wasn't a crime in the United States until 1986. Due to how much money they generate, 42 buildings in New York City have their own zip code. When we're tempted to buy something, thinking about how many hours it's going to take to afford that thing usually helps us stop.
If you are a family influencer or post your child on social media, here are a few things you should never do in my own opinion. Number 1, might be common sense, but never post your child in a bathing suit. It's disgusting how many of these Instagram accounts exist that just solely share these types of photos and even have their own groups and communities, so just don't. Number 2, having your very young child's own Instagram page. For example, the LeBrant family. They have an Instagram account for each of their very young children, and just because it's managed by mom and dad does not mean it stops thousands of sick individuals from following the accounts and using their photos for exploitation. Number 3, AI-generated photos are becoming more and more realistic, so think about that before you post a picture of your child eating, crying, or honestly doing anything. When it comes to this type of inappropriate content, people will do anything to get a photo. Honestly, as someone who has talked about true crime stories for over 3 years, I highly suggest you never post your kid on social media. If you have other tips, please comment that down below.
Let's talk about this brave man whose life was taken while he tried to protect his family at the Trump campaign rally. On July 13th, 50-year-old Corey Comprador, his wife and 2 daughters attended the rally in Pennsylvania where Trump was speaking. The family sat on the stand right behind Trump when less than 10 minutes into the speech, the shooting began, and while Trump was hit in the right ear, 3 other people were also hit. These are 2 of the 3 victims, David Dutch and James Copenhaver. They were in critical condition but are expected to recover. Unfortunately, 50-year-old Corey did lose his life while he tried to protect his family. His wife Helen and his 2 daughters said that he died a hero, and the last words that he said to them was to get down before he threw them to the floor and covered them. Corey worked as a project and tooling engineer and was a firefighter of the Buffalo Township Volunteer Fire Company. After this tragic and sad incident, over $4.7 million has been donated to the victims, with Elon Musk donating $100,000 as well as Dana White and Kid Rock.
That's good that celebrities actually got involved and donated to them. That is super sad, and that dude really was a hero. He was the reason that his family, or at least one of his family members, could possibly be alive, because he could easily just be like, what the, and then someone else just then someone else in his family gets shot, and that would have been tragic, and I don't think it was like that.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Sometimes you laugh, talk, and cry in sleep. It's often a spirit sitting beside you in bed. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York than to be bitten by a shark. A human head remains conscious for 20 seconds after being decapitated. If you search up this number on Google, you'll find people with their heads in fridges. Gelatin is made out of bones. That's right. The melted marshmallow in your hot chocolate is melted animal bone. It's good stuff. You have no way of really knowing if everyone experiences reality and consciousness the same way you do. If a panda finds a fresh carcass, they'll eat it. And last but not least, your phone is likely spying on you right now as you're watching this. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 8.
I feel like the phone one, we all somewhat knew that somehow, some way, they're low-key kind of like stalking us through our phones. Like, I feel like we knew that.
I went swimming with sharks and nearly ended up in the hospital, and not for any reason you'd think. Shout out to Nat Geo for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna change the way you look at sharks in less than 60 seconds. Let's get it. The author of Jaws, Peter Benchley, not only did he regret writing the book because of all the bad PR to sharks, he would dedicate the rest of his life to shark conservation. If Jaws were written today, the shark would be the victim. The Greenland shark is a slow burn glacier guppy that can not only live for up to 400 years, they don't hit baby making age until 150. 150, dude, and still young. Now there's more than 500 types of sharks, so it's easy to miss one, like the chain cat shark, which happens to glow in the dark that's biofluorescence. The epaulet is a shark that disrespects the natural order by walking, using pelvic and pectoral fins to move around during low tide. Sharks use a type of camouflage called countershading, meaning if you're above them, they blend into the dark abyss, but if you're below them, their light underbelly gets lost in the light of the sky. When you've been around longer than trees, nature gives you perks like that's Anthony Mackie. It is, and he and Ross Edgley and many more will be a part of National Geographic's Shark Fest, airing on Disney Plus and Hulu. Check it out if you're ready to see sharks be anything but the bad guy. Oh, that's right. Well, I wasn't lying. The sharks were fine, but the ocean slammed me against the bars of the cage like it owed me money. So, moral of the story, I'm not afraid of sharks, just the ocean around it.
This is why you should never take walks alone at night. In 2007, a girl was on a late night walk when she looked at the end of the road and saw the silhouette of a man moving around very strangely. It was like he was doing the waltz, but he was moving towards her. So she was sketched out, crossed the road, and went the other way. After a couple minutes, she turned around to see what he was doing, and he was right across the street from her, now staring up into the sky with a huge grin on his face. Now totally creeped out, she turns around and walks about a half block before checking again, and to her horror, he's now crouched down right behind her. But luckily, he stands up, turns around, and kind of hobbles away. And then she notices something. The man had turned around and was now sprinting directly towards her. She runs to safety and now just hopes she never has to see that smiling man again.
These are scary facts about popular childhood movies, part 1. Up first, Claire Blandick, who played Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz, suffered from arthritis that was so painful that she committed suicide at the age of 85. She did her hair and makeup one final time and put on a nice dress before overdosing on sleeping pills. She then left a note that said, "I am now about to make the great adventure. I cannot endure this agonizing pain any longer. It's all over my body. I pray the Lord my soul to take. Amen." Next up, in the movie The Adventures of Milo and Otis, it's been reported that upwards of 20 cats were killed during the filming of the movie. There's a lot of speculation behind this because the film somehow got the approval of the American Humane Society, despite not having their officers present during filming.
Well, that was terrible. The poor cats didn't do anything.
This is why you should be scared of Ouija boards. A former Reddit user said that he used a Ouija board with results and let something into his home. He said that he has also been physically assaulted by this entity. He said that it started out with the feeling that he was being watched, doors closing and footsteps on the hardwood floor when he was home alone. All of this slowly progressed into being kept awake by something shaking the bed and pulling off the covers. He said that sometimes he even heard whispers of his name. The board would disappear for days on end and then show up in places that he never even put it. He became obsessed with it. Things got even worse though. He said that he began to see a black mass in the corner of the room and the silhouette of a man watching him from the doorway. One night, the paranormal activity escalated into a full-blown attack. He said that he had his hair pulled, fingers pricked, and that he was choked while being held down in bed. During the attack, he claims that this thing whispered into his ear in what could have only been Latin. After this event, he finally decided to have his house blessed, and fortunately, this entity hasn't shown back up. He said that he will never again play with one of those boards.
This is the case of the girl that vanished into thin air. Her name is Yuki Onishi. On April 29th of 2005, 5-year-old Yuki was out celebrating Greenery Day with her mother. It's a national holiday in Japan, and what they do is they go out, they celebrate nature, and they collect bamboo shoots. So Yuki, her mom, and 60 other people were out doing this. Yuki was so excited that she found her first bamboo shoot, she showed her mother, and then she ran off to find more. That's when she disappeared and was never seen from again. When they realized that she was nowhere to be found, they actually brought in search dogs and the police. This is where it gets really strange. The dogs followed her scent to the middle of the forest and then just stopped. The scent stopped in the middle of the forest as if she had just disappeared into thin air from that spot. To this day, she has never been found and no one knows what happened. If you want to hear some theories, come back for part 2.
Do you remember this horror game that no longer exists? Let's talk about a terrifying horror experience that was taken off the web. Hotel 626. More obscure horror games right here. This game is an example of lost media and the images are a little blurry, so bear with me. Hotel 626 is a horror game that was actually made by Doritos for a marketing campaign. You go through a series of disturbing events that take place inside of a hotel while you try to escape. But the name of the game actually means more than you might think. The 626 in the game's title stands for the fact that this game was only playable between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. every day, meaning you had to play this game at night. There was no other choice. Now, I did some research and there really is no way to play this game today. Luckily though, footage does still exist on YouTube, so at least we have that. Hotel 626 actually made enough of an impact that it received a sequel called Asylum 626, but we'll talk about that later.
It's actually a really cool concept how they allow you to play a game from 6 to 6. That's why it's called 626. I feel like I'll play something like that.
Interesting people you've never heard of. This man attempted to dribble a soccer ball 10,000 miles from Seattle to Brazil, but unfortunately lost his life after being hit by a pickup truck only 250 miles in. Disney co-founder Roy Disney went to Disneyland every single week with his grandchildren, greeting employees by name and picking up trash to teach them the lesson that nobody is too good to pick up trash. This woman sat at a table in a New York museum for 736 hours over 3 months, allowing anybody to come up and sit across from her and make eye contact with no speaking. This French woman was imprisoned by her family for 25 years in the late 1800s without seeing any sunlight. This man smashed the door of a cupcake store, sat for 15 minutes and thought about what he did, cleaned up his mess in regret, and then stole 6 cupcakes. The store owner saw everything on camera. Instead of pressing charges, he created a signature cupcake after him.
I want to go ahead and I want to discuss this Instagram story and what makes this diabolically creepy. So I'm not going to give the name. I blocked everything out because clearly they want to remain anonymous. Context is that somebody clearly broke into their old school. I don't know if it was their middle school, high school, whatever it was. And they posted this to their story, but pretty soon after, people started commenting about what they see in the background. Zoom in just a little bit, you would see that this person was not alone in that classroom. But before we take a deeper look at that photo, a huge thank you to Spyfly for bringing you this story. You want to look up something about somebody, you go to Spyfly. How to become this one-stop shop where you can do background reports, you can look at arrest records, you can even do reverse phone lookup. Spyfly.com is going to be the place to do it. You can check the link in my bio for more details. So back to this photo. I don't know if you can see this, but there is definitely somebody crouching in the background of this classroom. And if you still doubt me, I zoomed in and enhanced the picture for you.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. This woman passed away in her home while watching TV and was not discovered for 3 years. Girls at a nearby camp danced in the falling white ash of the atomic trinity test when it was happening. 10 out of 12 of the girls that danced in the ash passed away before the age of 40. This man donated $100,000 to UCLA to bypass a queue for a liver transplant. 186 people in the Los Angeles area passed away waiting for this same surgery. This woman survived after her parachute failed to deploy just days after surviving a gas leak at her house. Both events were found to be intentional plots carried out by her husband. Hitler had a romantic obsession with his teenage half-niece. All of the members of group chat will eventually pass away, leaving the group to just exist forever. We are one convincing deep fake away from a global catastrophe.
They're not lying. We are not lying. We are one deep fake away from World War. Hopefully that never happens.
And curtain number 1 is correct.
Wait. You don't remember what she looks like?
September 25th, 1981, something very strange took place up in the Smoky Mountains. This is a picture of Pauline Melton, and it would end up being one of the last known photos of her. Because while Pauline was up there, she was with 2 hiking companions. They described that she all of a sudden, without explanation, just started to rapidly speed up. They even described that they called out to her and they were asking, "Pauline, where are you going? Pauline." She never answered, she never looked back until she crossed over a hill. Since that exact moment, Pauline was never seen again. And to this day, they still have no idea where she went and why she did it.
Terrifying true facts that will keep you up at night, Part 2. Most people would consider ducklings to be relatively harmless and innocent creatures, but they can be more sinister than you might realize. When a group of ducklings starts to feel overcrowded, aggravated, or even just bored sometimes, they will often turn to cannibalism to solve their problems for them. This is a characteristic that they share with other animals we tend to regard as being cute, such as chickens and bunny rabbits. And speaking of cute, let's talk about babies. Up until the mid-1980s, doctors would routinely operate on infants without the use of anesthetics. This is because it was thought that babies couldn't experience pain. Also in the 1980s, CNN pre-recorded an ominous video meant to be published in the event of an end-of-the-world scenario. Comment if you think that video will be published during your lifetime, and follow for more.
That footage is so old, they better re-record that. 2024, re-record a new one and be like, hey, listen guys, we all know what might happen, or something, I don't know. Like, they definitely gotta re-record that.
Creepy people who were caught on camera PT.1.
terrific. Do you girls like to read? Do any of you like to read?
No.
No?
I'm inserting. I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, but you're dead. Yeah, you keep going. Alright, that's it.
Frostbite.
That's it.
You'll keep it for the rest of your life.
I recorded this stuff. You're good. Alright, though, but he leaves, like, this loose.
Dude, that was weird as hell. Like, just leave them girls alone. For a sec, I thought that one friend that came in at the end was the guy. I was like, yo, this dude is brave. But nah, it was just her homie. Good shit.
Used home camera of footage PT.3.
In 2017, a mother in Billing, Montana woke up in the middle of the night to a notification on her phone. Her phone was synced to a baby monitor she had set up in her infant's daughter's room. So anytime there was enough motion detected, the system would send her a notification. On this night, upon being alerted, she opened the app expecting to see her daughter awake walking around her crib. But instead, she saw this. Yo, what the f... A man she didn't know is seen on camera crouched down in the room. Ew. She saw this, she dropped her phone and ran to the room to retrieve her daughter. When she got into the room, she didn't see anyone, but she wasn't exactly looking. As quick as she could, she grabbed her daughter from her crib and ran straight out the front door, no cap. There she would call the police and proceed to stand outside her house. When they arrived, they conducted a complete search of the house, but they didn't find anyone. All the mother had for evidence was the still frame she managed to capture of the man crouched down in the room. People have tried to amplify the image as to identify the man, but to no avail. Police still don't know who this man is or how he got into the house. God damn. A very odd detail is that it was found that nothing but a remote to a dog shock collar was stolen from the house. Nothing further would occur after the break-in. Who this man is and how he got into the house is still unknown. He broke into her house just to steal a dog collar, all that just for that? If he got caught, I'd have been like, bro, that was the most useless. Like, you could have took money or something. Good thing he didn't take anything else, but like, that's like, what was the point then, you know?
This priest tied himself to 1,000 colorful helium balloons and then was found in the ocean months later. On April 20th, 2008, 41-year-old Father Adiller DeCarli wanted to raise money to build a chapel in his hometown, so he chose to tie himself up to 1,000 helium balloons and float over the ocean. He also hoped to break the previous 19-hour record, but unfortunately, things ended tragically. On the morning of April 20th, Father Adiller was fully repaired to take off, and for safety reasons, he put on a helmet, waterproof coveralls, and an aluminum thermal flight suit, as well as a GPS tracker and a radio to communicate with people on the ground. Only a few hours after taking off, despite the radio and GPS tracker, Father Adiller disappeared and could not be located. The last thing that he said through the radio was that he was losing height and was going to land in the ocean. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched, and after 2 days, they found the colorful balloons in the sea off Brazil's southeast coast, but Father Adiller was not there. Then, a few months later, a body was found in the ocean, which turned out to be him. It was reported that the priest had reached an altitude of 20,000 feet and then was blown off course by the strong winds, causing his tragic death.
So with the amount of people that pass away in hospitals, it's no surprise that they're reportedly full of a lot of paranormal activity. Some people even say that when there are many deaths occurring in a certain area, portals are opened up. And as these souls exit this world, other things, entities, creep in. A nurse who wants to remain anonymous said that she used to work in a skilled nursing facility. She was usually assigned the Alzheimer's ward. One night, she was in the linen room stocking her cart and she heard someone shuffle up behind her. Then, she said she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned around and there was no one else in the room. A female patient started to complain that there was a man coming into her room late at night. Anonymous said that she was in the Alzheimer's ward, so she didn't think much of it. To reassure the patient, she told her that she would come check on her throughout the night. She complained of this man every night for 2 more weeks. The nurse finally asked her to describe him, and the patient said, "He's real handsome, and he wears a black suit. Oh, and he's right behind you now, honey." The nurse said that this freaked her the F out. Of course, there was no one behind her. The patient died the next night in her sleep. So these nurses and doctors really do have a lot of great supernatural stories, and I don't know what to think about that one, because she was, like she said, in an Alzheimer's ward, and Alzheimer's patients can hallucinate. But the nurse did say that when she heard someone shuffle up behind her, she also felt a hand on her shoulder. And I don't know, guys, this story is pretty creepy. The patient described the man as being in all black, yet very handsome. I know that the Grim Reaper is conventionally described as being in like a hooded cloak, but could this have been the Grim Reaper? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments.
I don't believe handsome is the word you would use to describe the Grim Reaper. That's just me personally. I'd be like, yeah, just some guy in a black cloak with a pitchfork looking knife thing. I don't even know what you call those. A cipher or some shit? I don't know.
Imagine getting this mad because your bubble tea was made wrong. Police were called to this bubble tea place after this grown man had a meltdown because his bubble tea tasted too bitter. He got so mad that he threatened to throw the drink at the worker and said some very offensive stuff in Korean. Then he tried to force the worker to drink the bubble tea that he just finished putting in his mouth.
You know the reason why I'm here. You know, I do. And I explained. It was so bitter to drink. I said I will explain. And could you check this? Could you try this? I told her, but she rejected.
Hey, first off, there's no reason to act like this over a drink. You're a grown man.
This is the worker, and she tried to find a solution by offering to make him a new drink or give him a refund, but this man was so mad. He didn't want any of that. He just wanted to fight. The workers ended up calling the police because this man was getting pretty aggressive, and when the police arrived and heard both stories, they were upset because this man was acting like a baby over a drink. Then this man called his daughter so that she can better explain the situation because there was a language barrier, and you would think that she had more common sense, but it seems that common sense does not run in this family because she was blaming the workers for everything.
There's bigger things in life to worry about than a damn drink that's bitter or not.
I know, sir, you're really discounting.
Then you go to another location. If I go to a restaurant and they offend me, I'm just gonna not gonna bring my business
I know,
there.
that's how you handle your problem. And this is
but you can't come into public and then cause a disturbance.
Sir, I understand what you're saying, and I understand that he was offended. You know, he may seem like really offensive, and you apologize, okay? But when someone is really worked up and there's no de-escalation of the problem because they're not apologizing for this service, then we only get really upset.
Okay, but he's got to be in charge of his own emotions.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't like the drink, then take the refund and don't come back. It's simple. It's so frustrating to see the entitlement and lack of awareness of these people. I felt so bad for this worker. She broke down in tears and apologized to this man so many times, but he wasn't satisfied and just wanted to continue to fight. It's so frustrating to see this, especially because she's working at a bubble tea place. She probably gets paid minimum wage and she has to deal with people like this.
Yeah, that is hella frustrating. She even offered to give him a new drink and he didn't even take it. At that point, I would just take the refund and leave, but he wanted to escalate the situation. I think calling the cops was the right move, not gonna lie.
This is a true horrifying story about the red wristband. Before I jump to the story, I want to wish everybody Ramadan Kareem. This story was published by an anonymous author in May 17th of 2008. When we get admitted in a hospital, we are given this white wristband. It usually has our name on it, our birth date, our section, and sometimes the doctor's name. But there are other different colored wristbands. Blue, green, yellow, and sometimes pink. Different colors symbolize different things. For example, the red wristband. Patients with allergies wear them. However, in some hospitals, they're only placed on dead people. Back in 2008, a forensic pathologist on a late-night shift just finished examining a deceased woman. On his way down to the basement, he got in the elevator and there was one woman inside with him. As the elevator descended, he was chatting with this woman inside. She seemed friendly. The elevator stops midway and the gates open. An old woman was approaching the elevator, and in a very rude manner, the doctor slams the close button so that the woman approaching does not come inside. The woman that was with the doctor in the elevator was shocked, and she asked why he did not let the other woman in. The doctor said, "That was the woman I just operated on. She died during the procedure. Did you not see the red wristband that she was wearing?" The woman smiled and raised her arm. Something like this.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 44. There is a type of shark species known as the Greenland shark that can live upwards of 200 years. One, because it is adapted to the cold water in the Arctic Ocean, and the second reason is because it'll eat anything that falls in the water. That means polar bears, penguins, and anything up above. If you were to travel to space in a spaceship, traveling the speed of light, let's say at age 15, when you came back 5 years later, you would be 20, but all of your friends, well, they'd be 65. There is a condition known as the Cotard syndrome, otherwise known as the walking corpse syndrome, in which people suffer from believing that they have never existed and that they have been dead this whole time.
The place that used to be crowded is now abandoned. Elephant Village, abandoned.
Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
That we're not supposed to be caught on camera. Where did he come from?
Teacher, Miss Rebel, sued the school. This wasn't a small fire. Someone could have gotten hurt. 4 students confessed of starting this fire. In the article, it says that the students tipped over the coal bucket using long rulers and pointers while the teacher was not looking. They snuck lumps of coal into their pockets just to start a fire. Crazy things students would go through just to get out of a test. When Miss Rebel was not looking, they threw the coal towards the windows, bookshelf, and a dictionary. Can our pets see things that we can't? So last night it was pretty funny. Our family cat was staring down the basement just like this, and like for 5 seconds, and then after 5 seconds it just ran away. It just bolted up. So back home in Mexico, we've always been told that pets, animals, dogs, cats, horses can see spirits, can see things that we just can't. I wonder if it's true. I wonder if people have had these similar experiences. If you have, comment below. Oh, scariest part of Halloween, part 1. It's the houses that leave a bowl of candy right outside in front of the door. When I was a kid, there would be times when like a hand would come out. Well, not a real hand, of course, but like a figure would come out, or like someone like hiding behind the bushes would come out and like scare me. Back then, I would get so anxious just seeing candy outside in front of the door. And you know, sometimes I wouldn't go just because I was like too scared. If you really want to cause nightmares, I would say, yeah, just like have a hand come out of the bowl, or like some monster come out and jump out of the bushes. That would be really scary.
I don't know, I feel like the one where he was talking about the animals seeing ghosts, I've actually heard about that a lot. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember hearing about that. It would only make sense, but I wonder why they think that. Do you guys think that animals can see ghosts? Put your thoughts in the comments.
Bill Cosby is one of the worst senators in American history. This case is long and extremely disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. Bill Cosby was born in 1937 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And through his work and his career, he would become one of the most influential actors in American history. Bill's career started in doing stand-up comedy. He toured the nation, played shows all over, and appeared on various late-night TV shows performing his stand-up. He appeared in a lot of movies and TV shows, but his biggest thing that he was ever involved with was The Cosby Show, where he played your average, caring, all-American dad. He even gained a reputation and a nickname of America's Dad because so many people believed that he was this father figure that should be looked up to and respected. But behind the scenes, he was engaging in some of the most deplorable behavior I've ever read about. So the earliest allegation against Bill Cosby was actually made way back in 1965. when a woman named Christina Rulli came forward and said that he had drugged and assaulted her at a party. But nothing ever came about after that allegation. In the early 1980s, another woman came forward named Joan Tarshis and claimed that she had been assaulted by Bill Cosby. Then, in 1996, a Playboy playmate came forward and said she had been assaulted by Bill Cosby. And again, in the 1990s, Wendy Williams, who now has her own TV show, she was a radio host, she referred to some allegations against Bill Cosby, and apparently in the middle of the night after she had done this segment on her show talking about the allegations, Cosby personally called Wendy Williams his boss and demanded that she be fired. I mean, this case is so deep though, it's crazy how many allegations were made against this guy and no one ever did anything. For example, in 2000, a woman came forward and said that while at Bill Cosby's Manhattan townhouse, he had exposed himself and attempted to grope her. Cosby said this didn't happen and they brought the case to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and they declined to prosecute. Then in 2004, a Temple University employee came forward and said that Bill Cosby had drugged and assaulted her. But the Pennsylvania District Attorney's Office said that there would be no charges brought against Bill Cosby because of a lack of evidence. I mean, I could sit here all day and go through all the different times people tried to expose Bill Cosby over the years, but this would be like a 20-minute long TikTok. But then Hannibal Buress enters the picture. So you might know Hannibal from the Eric Andre show or his stand-up. Personally, I think Hannibal's one of the funniest people on the planet. But at a show in October of 2014 in Philadelphia, Hannibal Buress made a Bill Cosby joke. He had been telling this joke for months, 6 months actually, before the night of this show in Philadelphia. And in the show, he joked about Bill Cosby's rape allegations. He even encouraged the audience to go home and Google Bill Cosby rape and see what pops up. This joke was meant to emphasize the fact that Bill Cosby had maintained this American dad, all-American guy image over the years, even though he had been accused of sexual assault so many times. And this video of the performance by Hannibal is what blew this case wide open. And what happened next is crazy, but I have to post a part 2 here because I'm running out of time, so if you want to see it, I'm posting a part 2.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, bro, I mean, he's in jail now. Didn't he get released or something? I don't even remember.
At this screenshot, this is a child on a TikTok live stream, masked and holding a piece of paper that says in Arabic, "I want to buy a PlayStation." This child has been sitting in the live stream for hours. Not one breath was heard, nor a single muscle was moved for hours during this live. And of course, many innocent viewers were lured into this live, donating gifts so this child can buy a PlayStation. You see, this is way darker than what you guys think. For all that you know, this child could be abducted or forced by his own family to do this. This child has evidently been forced and suffocated inside of a mask to be a bait for innocent viewers. I have personally seen things like this on the dark web. I've seen live streams very similar to this one. I feel so bad and so disgusted. Unfortunately, there are no identities in this page that we can report. If you see this live, report it. This child's been sitting there for hours and probably doesn't even know what the paper says.
He's a person in the window, but they're not there.
Esto es muy loco. Miren. No se ve nada. No se ve nada. Asustado pero posta. ¿La ven? ¿Llegan a ver? Hay una mujer en la puerta del edificio. Una mujer al lado del portero eléctrico. Esto hay... ¿Lo ven? Acerquemos. Hay una mujer al lado del portero eléctrico. Son las 2:30 de la mañana. Esa imagen ni temprano, apareció recién y no se mueve. Ahora, vamos a ver. No hay nada, ven ahí, no hay nada. No hay nada. Pero cuando yo veo las cámaras, me aparece la mujer por las cámaras. ¿La ven? Una locura. La primera vez en la vida que me aparece esa mujer. Y no son efectos de...
Yo, what's up? here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 43. One of the reasons refrigerators are magnetic is because back during the early 1900s, children used to get stuck inside of these when they were playing hide and go seek, and they would actually suffocate and die. There's actually a condition known as arachnodactyly, and it makes your fingers and your toes appear abnormally long in comparison to your palm and to your foot. It can appear at birth or later on during life, so don't think you're safe just yet. There's a chance that you could experience internal bleeding, but you may not even know it's going on until it's too late. Oh yeah, I didn't know if you knew this or not, but actually when you die, they drain your body of all the blood. They put a tube through your jugular, it goes down a table, and then it empties out into like a sink or a toilet. Yeah, and then it's just replaced with formaldehyde.
Why specifically formaldehyde though? Is that like a specific thing that keeps the body, you know, fresh and presentable? If you know, put your thoughts in the comments.
These are the most haunted places in Egypt. Starting at number 4, the mansion of Izzat Abu Auf. Izzat Abu Auf was a famous Egyptian actor that died in 2019. People he has hosted over parties at his home have reportedly seen a ghost walking with an old-style lamp in his hand. It is said to be the ghost of one of the previous owners of this home, but we all know what that thing is. Number 3, Barun Impain Palace. People nearby and guards around the palace have seen ghosts and have heard weird voices coming out of this abandoned place. Barun, the owner of this house, used to live here with his family. His wife died in the palace in very mysterious circumstances. A few months later, the daughter died, and a few months later, Barun died. No one was able to find out how they died, but the palace is not a safe place to stay. Number 2, Hilwan Hospital. This is North Africa's most haunted hospital. The family members of King Farouk used to live here. It became a morgue for the family members after they died. People have seen light bulbs flicker by themselves without any reason, and shadows creeping up on them along with children's voices. People have reported extremely negative vibes around this site, and this place remains as one of the world's most haunted abandoned hospitals. And finally, number 1, the Pyramids of Giza. In my True Horrifying Story series, part 48, I spoke about the era of when black magic was the strongest, most dangerous, and nothing compared to how it is today. This era was back during the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Tutankhamun's grave, the world's most haunted grave, was inside one of these pyramids. Every pyramid used to hold treasures that is guarded by jinns. Thousands of people have died trying to retrieve these treasures up until just recently. Until this day, there are areas in these pyramids that have still not been explored due to the power of jinns that guard them. These pyramids are not just haunted. Walking in them is like walking into hell on earth. You tell me, what country should I do next?
So you still don't believe in ghosts? Well, every once in a while you're gonna come across a video that challenges those beliefs. Notice the way the smoke is going. This thing is going the opposite direction into the fire. These people don't do paranormal content. It's normally about their dogs. So this makes me really believe in this video, that it's true, unedited, and amazing. I'm gonna tag them below in this video. Go back, watch their content, see for yourself. Come back, let me know what you think.
That was definitely not a ghost. Like, in my opinion, that was definitely like a part of the smoke, or maybe like it was cold outside, so it could have been like some sort of vapor from the fire. Like, anything but a ghost, if you ask me.
This is the story of Robert Berdella, otherwise known as the Butcher of Kansas. In the late 1980s, somewhere between 1984 and 1987, in Kansas City, Missouri, Robert Berdella killed and tortured 6 men at his home. Now, Berdella's fantasies of killing people didn't really surface until about 1967 when he enrolled at the Kansas City Art Institute in hopes of becoming a professor. But instead of fulfilling his fantasies of killing people, he actually started with killing animals and got kicked off campus for killing a dog in the name of art. But shortly after getting kicked out of college, Bob actually opened up his own store called Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, where he would actually sell an absurd amount of very strange and occult-like novelties, like human skulls and shrunken heads. And it wouldn't be too long after opening the store that Berdella's soon-to-be 7th victim, Christopher Bryson, would move on to escape Berdella's 2nd floor in his home and flag down the police so that he can bring them to the scene. It was then made clear that Berdella was operating a torture chamber inside of his own home. Investigators even moved on to find around 340 to 350 Polaroid pictures of his victims while they were being tortured, and some of his victims' dismembered body parts inside of dog food bags. Berdella was then sentenced to life in prison, but actually ended up dying in 1992 due to a heart attack.
Ed found out some ghosts are solid, just like you and me. Ed Cox was driving home from work one night in a rainstorm. While waiting for a light to change, he noticed a young woman waiting by herself at a bus stop. She had no umbrella and was soaking wet. He asked, "Are you going toward Farmington? And if so, would you like a ride?" She replied with, "I am, and I would love a ride." So she got in and told him that her name is Joanna Fittie. After climbing in, she said, "Thank you for rescuing me." He said, "Hi, I'm Ed Cox, and you're welcome." On the way, they talked and they talked. She told him about her family, her job, and where she lived, even where she had gone to school. And he told her about himself. By the time they reached her house, the rain had stopped. "I'm glad it rained," he said. "Would you like to go out tomorrow?" She said, "I'd love to," and asked him to meet her at the bus stop again, since it was near her office. They had a great time, and they went out many times after that. Always they would meet at the bus stop, and then off they'd go. Ed liked her more and more each time he saw her. But one night, Joanna didn't show up at the bus stop. Ed waited there for almost an hour. He thought something must be wrong, so he drove to her house in Farmington. There was a bright porch light on, so he knew someone was home and decided to knock on the door. An older woman came to the door. He said, "Hi, I'm Ed Cox. Maybe Joanna has told you about me. We had a date scheduled for tonight, and we were supposed to meet at the bus stop, but she didn't show up. Is she all right?" The woman looked at him as if he had said something strange. "I'm Joanna's mother," she said slowly. "Joanna isn't here now, but why don't you come in?" After entering the home, Ed pointed at a picture on the mantle. He said, "That looks just like her." "It did. Once," her mother replied. "But that picture was taken when she was your age, about 20 years ago." She said a few days after that was taken, she was waiting at the bus stop in the rain when she was struck by a car and killed on that very spot. Ed was heartbroken, but went back to visit that bus stop many times, just hoping he would see her again. But he never did.
Damn, I know Ed was hurt. In my head, I was like, man, you know what I'm saying? He just lost his girl. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is nowadays. But then she was like, she's been like dead for 20 years. I'm just like, okay.
Thing about this photo that makes me want to run and hide under the covers. At first glance, this just looks like a photo of a doorway, right? But then you look a little closer. This photo was captured by an Australian man in 2020. He said he was at home alone and heard the sound of feet shuffling around or clothes rubbing against each other. He knew the apartment was empty, all of his roommates were out at work. He began looking around and captured a photograph of a ghostly figure in his hallway. The chilling, white, faceless head is seen peering from behind a door frame. The best part of this story, though, is that this guy immediately moved out. A lot of these people are like, "Oh, I stayed." He's like, "I'm out." He's a smart guy, because if I saw that, I'd make like a bread truck and haul buns. Who or what this is remains a mystery. What are your thoughts on this photo? And also, I'm sorry for the nightmares. Kinda. For more spooky stories, check out the Avery After Dark podcast, available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. This is one of the most bizarre stories to ever come out of Pennsylvania. In Philadelphia, there's been rumors for years about this bus that doesn't have an end destination. It's legendary, and they call it the bus to nowhere. Story goes, the bus only appears to people who are at their lowest and need to get away from their problems quickly. It displays no destination, has no route number, nor does it appear on any transportation maps. Legend says the bus will pick up passengers, but they have no idea how long they've been on the bus for. It could have been hours, days, or even years. Ask some Philadelphians and they will tell you firsthand that they've seen this bus winding its way through town. Where this bus truly goes, no one really knows. But once the passenger is ready to face the world, the bus will stop and they can get off. And if you live or have been to Philly, you may have passed the bus to nowhere and not even known. What are your thoughts? Have you ever seen or heard of the bus to nowhere?
If I ever go to Philly, I'm definitely gonna try to look for that bus. If any of you guys ever if you live in Philly, let me know if you've ever seen it or think you've seen it.
Today I'm going to show you the most disturbing parts of the internet, part 2. In part 1, I made a video about a cave website where the guy mysteriously disappeared and never updated the website. But this one is going to take a whole new approach because today we're going to be actually spying on people. This website is called NCCam. For legal reasons, I'm just going to show you this website, but let me tell you about it first. This website scans the internet for unsecured webcams. For example, if I was on Amazon and I bought this little cheap webcam. Let's act like this is the webcam and I never put a password on it. The website will automatically scan around and find that webcam and put it on their website as long as it doesn't have a password. And let's be honest, most people who are like in their 50s and 60s aren't that aware that you need to put a password on webcams. So today we're gonna be spying on people's houses. This one is in Denver, Colorado, and we can see it says sleep room, and it almost kind of looks like a crib for babies. Here we are, we're in somebody's house, it looks like. This looks like some kind of red room. We're looking at neighborhoods. And the list just keeps going on. That's just to page 54, and there's 947. So if you bought a webcam and you never put a password on it, chances are more than likely that you're on this website. Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't have a webcam, and I never even knew that you had to put passwords on them. Yeah, so if you have a camera in your house or in front of your door, you might want to put a password on it. I'm not gonna lie, that was new news to me. I don't know how, even know. Yeah.
This is so bizarre. This creepy footage comes to us from Doneen Bull Davis, who lives on the Louis Bull Tribe Reserve in Alberta, Canada. The family was at home one evening when they began to hear a strange voice coming from the wooded area in their backyard. They went outside to check, didn't see anything, but then they begin to hear the mysterious voice start to taunt them. Take a listen.
Come out so I can see you. Come out. Come on. Come out. DJ. Come on up.
The mimicking voice continues, and it starts to escalate.
Come on. Come on. Fuck you, let's leave. No.
What? The family was freaked out and called police to come check things out. Officers got to the scene and checked the woods, and one of them said he heard the voice as well, but they couldn't find anyone back there. The family has no idea how to explain any of this. Some believe it's some kind of creature that roams the reserve. What do you think it is?
These girls were out hiking when they encountered a skinwalker. Check it out.
We're frozen here. Because that doesn't sound like coyotes. They got something. Are they getting closer to it? No? No. A biker just went that way, and the sound got worse.
You in a spooky mood? You're about to be. A woman wrote, I was staying at a cottage with 6 friends in North Wales for the weekend. The cottage was owned by my best friend's grandfather in a pretty isolated location. That Saturday morning, we decided to head out to the local market and stopped at a pub on the way back. While sitting at the pub eating lunch, a few of our other friends who were staying in a nearby town walked into the pub and said, oh, we're glad you guys are still here. They had missed us. But this was strange, as we didn't tell them we were stopping at this pub. We asked how on earth did they know that we were here? They said they had phoned the cottage we were staying at, and the lady that answered the phone told them. We were all freaked out because there was no one else staying at the cottage. No cleaning ladies, no other guests tied to the house. It was empty that day, and for the rest of the trip, I barely slept a wink, just wondering who answered that phone, and how did that woman know where we were? Told ya. Spooky. So, who answered the phone? I'll give you a hint. It's a ghost.
Was me. I answered, imagine.
I have a lechuza story time. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. Her name is Margarita. When Margarita was about 12 years old, her and her mom were leaving a relative's house. This particular relative happened to live in the middle of nowhere. As they're making their way home, this car comes out of nowhere and causes them to swerve off the road, almost hitting a ditch. The minute they swerve off the road, Margarita and her mom look up and they see this giant bird just appear out of nowhere. Now this thing was massive. It had this massive wings that were like spread out, but it had the face of an old lady. Margarita's mom immediately grabbed her, like she cuffed her down and started to pray. They stood in the car praying for what felt like forever. Once they looked up, she was no longer there. Even though this story happened many years ago, Margarita has never been able to get this old lady's head out of her head. Like it's like engraved to her head. Her mom is a curandera, so when they made their way back home, her mom did a cleansing thing to try to get rid of any negative energy this lechuza may have left behind. They also lived next to a church, which always made Margarita feel safe. So if you ever happen to be in the middle of nowhere and run across a giant bird with a old lady's face, don't approach it, don't get out of the car, pray and drive off.
Have you ever encountered a creepy doppelganger in real life? Listen to this. A woman wrote of a chilling encounter and said, I was probably about 16 to 17 years old and I had just gotten home from high school. My brother was in the kitchen making a ruckus, so I started that way. As I passed by his bedroom, I saw my mom in there, sitting on his bed with the lights off, facing away from me and towards the wall. I stopped and stood in the doorway and asked her if she was okay and what she was doing. She said really slowly, just sitting, come here, I need to talk to you. I took about a half a step into the room when I heard my mom yelling for me in the kitchen. I turned to look towards the kitchen for a second, and when I looked back, there was no one there. I don't think I ever went back into that room by myself again, even 10 years later. In years since, she's always wondered, who was that in the bedroom? Stories of people seeing their own doppelganger or a loved one's have circulated for years, and the occurrence has never been explained. What's going on here? I got the chills. Do you?
Seeing your own doppelganger in person would be crazy. Like an actual ghost doppelganger? I'm like, yo, what the...
Symbolism will be their downfall. Or is it just art? And let me be the first to tell you, it's all connected. I mean, if you know, you know. But first, let's go back to that video of Ellen DeGenerate. When the camera turns, you can see the inside of her house. Now, see that picture right there? Well, if you pause it and look it up, it says evil thoughts with revenge right next to it. Here's another picture of Ellen in her house, and this is the picture behind her. Now, the thing I'm curious about is the letters on top of the picture. These look oddly similar to the letters Marina Abramovich writes out when she does spirit cooking. Remember the beginning of the video? It's all connected. And that person that was in all red is Lady Gaga, and she went to Marina Abramovich many times for teaching. But let's continue. This is another picture of Ellen in her home. She's cutting her mother's hair, but what is that picture above her head?
Damn, Ellen. I mean, from our previous videos and videos I've seen personally, everyone says that Ellen is like a horrible person. Like, damn. It's crazy because you'll see her on like her game shows and stuff giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars. Everyone's like, yeah, we're winning. Then in the background, they're like, oh yeah, she's a horrible person. Like, she doesn't even treat her workers right, or like none of that. Like, that's crazy to hear. Like, if you guys know anything about that, put your thoughts in the comments.
You guys ever heard of this pretty little lady right here? Now, what if I were to tell you that she is real and I have a true story to confirm her existence? But in case you don't know who she even is, her name is Pontianak. Not sure why I'm even saying it out loud, but here we go. A Pontianak is a female D word that can cause serious harm to their victim, like physical harm. She's usually known to have really long black hair. She has pale skin. Normally, you know that she's like in the area or around you if you start to smell this like floral scent. That's usually one of her first signs. According to legend, she can possess a person, and the scent of blood is what attracts her. She originates in Malaysia. Now to the story, the person wants to remain anonymous, so let's call her Tina. So a few months after Tina's dad passed away, Tina and the rest of her family ended up moving into a condominium. When they first moved in, everything seemed okay, aside from the fact that there were times where they felt like they were being watched, but they didn't really think much of it. It wasn't until a few months after they moved in that they started to hear humming coming from next door. It sounded like a woman humming. This always started at 12 a.m. every single night. It got to the point that this humming started to disturb their sleep, so they became upset and decided to call security to complain about the next door neighbor constantly humming at 12 a.m. When security came to investigate, they could not hear the humming and dismissed it. About a week later, Tina's sister realizes that the humming is actually coming from the left side, so the left unit, which is a bit weird being that no one even lives in that unit. That unit is completely empty. But one night, Tina and her sister decided to do an experiment. They placed a cup right on the wall and they listened through and could hear that the apartment was completely empty. They could literally hear like the wind flowing in through the window, like there was absolutely no one living in there. But that same night at exactly 12 a.m., they once again hear the humming from the woman. They put the glass cup right next to the wall once again, and they can clearly hear this humming coming from right on the other side. This thing was humming so loudly that Tina was getting chills up and down her body. She then became angry because she's so tired of having this thing constantly disturb her. All she wanted to do was to get some rest, so she bangs on the wall to try to get this thing to stop. It stops like for a little bit, kind of slows down, but then it picks up again. From that point on, Tina's mom started playing mantras every night because they noticed that anytime they had the mantras playing, the humming would completely stop. Until one night that Tina's mom went out of town and left Tina and her sister home alone. Tina's sister noticed that there was a strong flowery type scent, like radiating throughout the whole apartment, which is your number one telltale sign that there's a Pontianak nearby. Tina's sister immediately called Tina into the room to see if Tina could also smell it. Tina was trying to debunk it, thinking that maybe the smell was coming from something in the apartment. So she went around looking, trying to figure out where this flowery scent was coming from. She walked out into the balcony to see maybe it was coming from outside, but couldn't see anything, so she turned her head and she was face to face with this thing. She was slowly just crawling on the side of the building. She had the long, flowy, dark hair and the pale skin, and she was just kind of hanging on to the side of the building. Tina did her hardest to not show any fear in her face because her mom always told her if she ever were to encounter her to not show any fear because this will weaken you even more. She slowly kind of made her way back into the apartment, composed herself, and called her mom to let her know what just happened. Her mom advised her to start playing the prayer mantra to try to get this thing to kind of go away, and told her that she would be home as soon as possible. Within the hour, her mom was home. Tina's mom had it at this point. She decided that she was going to contact a priest to officially get rid of this thing. When the priest came in, he told Tina's mom that this entity had attached itself to the family due to the fact that they were all females. This entity would watch as Tina and her sister, her mom, would brush their hair, and that she admired their long hair. This entity would also rub Tina's sister's arms and legs and admire her skin while she was sleeping. This is the reason why Tina's sister was constantly waking up with bruises all over her. The night that Tina encountered her was the night that this Pontianak was planning on going into the house and taking them because they had no parent watching over them. Tina and her family, of course, ended up asking the priest for help. He ended up coming in and cleansing the home. He recited some verses from the Quran and did a cleansing ritual. He then told Tina's mom that he could never share with anyone what he had to do in order to get rid of this entity. Regardless, Tina and her family were thankful that this entity was banished. They never again heard the humming. And Tina actually had tried to record the humming on one occasion so she can kind of like show to other people and prove that she wasn't going crazy. But when she went to play it back, the humming did not record.
In my head, I'm thinking like, she said female D word at the start of that. I'm like, bro, is TikTok that sensitive that you can't say demon anymore? Because I remember it used to be like die on TikTok and you should take my video down immediately. Like, it's so sensitive over there. How you gonna be admiring someone's skin so heavily that you leave so many bruises on them? It's a little bit odd.
This hotel room is so haunted, it needs a padlock. Spooky. This is room 18 at the St. James Hotel. The St. James Hotel in New Mexico, which once hosted Wild West legends like Jesse James and Buffalo Bill, is one of the most haunted in the state. After opening in 1872, the St. James Hotel quickly became known for its violence. So much so that a common question asked was, who was killed at the St. James last night? But room 18 itself is especially terrifying. Hotel staff keeps it locked because of the ghost of a man named Thomas James Wright. An unhappy spirit, he was killed at the hotel decades before, and his final moments were spent in room 18. People rarely ever enter the room, and no one ever sleeps in it. Thomas's angry ghost does not like company. In the past, he has pushed people down, and guests have felt unsafe in the room. Employees at the hotel consider it to be the most active room, hence the padlock. And rumors afloat that a number of mysterious deaths have occurred there when the room was rented out in the past. What are your thoughts, and what haunted hotel do you want to see next?
These are some of the best paranormal documentaries that I think you should watch. Also, just to say, I'm absolutely covered in plaster, and I don't want to get changed. I was mask making for a show. This is what I looked like a little while ago. Sorry for the jump scares, but let's get into it. First one is an absolute classic. It's called Ghosts on the Underground. It's a BBC documentary and it came out about 20 years ago, and it's all about famous hauntings on the London Underground, and it has lots of first-hand experiences, and it also goes some way to trying to explain scientifically why these hauntings might occur. I think the entire documentary is also available on YouTube, so definitely check that one out. Unsolved Mysteries is probably an obvious choice, but I want to specifically highlight the episode of Unsolved Mysteries that is all about the ghosts of the Japanese tsunami. It's season 2, episode 4. I did a TikTok about this about 2 years ago, all about the ghosts of the tsunami, and it went viral. This episode, season 2, episode 4, is just phenomenal television. It is harrowing, it is devastatingly sad, it is also creepy, supernatural. It is a look at how a community as a whole manages this like widespread grief. It's also a really respectful look at other cultures' attitudes towards death and the supernatural. Oh, it's just, honestly, it's so good. Even if you don't watch any of the rest of the series, watch the Ghosts of the Tsunami episode. This documentary lived in my brain rent-free for a really long time. I also think this is available on YouTube. It is an exploration of sleep paralysis. Now, a lot of people, myself included, don't classify sleep paralysis as anything supernatural. However, what this documentary does is it explores sleep paralysis, what it is, people's experiences with sleep paralysis, but the creep factor comes in when they start to talk about why people all over the world see the same creature during their sleep paralysis. And honestly, it's scary. And as somebody who doesn't suffer from sleep paralysis, thankfully, it changed my views on sleep paralysis significantly. Okay, I know some people are going to roll their eyes at this being included. I am no fan of Zach Bagans. Okay. I love that I say I'm no fan of Zach Bagans while simultaneously visiting his haunted museum. I'm a big fat hypocrite, okay? But here's the thing, right? The reason I included Demon House is because it's actually a really interesting and compelling story in itself. It's a story about a house in Gary, Indiana, where the mother believes that it is haunted and the children start acting really strangely. There are multiple eyewitness accounts from lots of professionals where weird things happen, including some weird exorcist, crawling up walls stuff that is witnessed by multiple people. Very strange story. You can watch Demon House on Amazon Prime, by the way. I don't know if I said that already. So the Bray Road Beast, I haven't actually seen yet. However, it is all about a series of alleged werewolf sightings in Wisconsin in the early 1990s. Now, if you're somebody like me who loves folklore and cryptid stories, you will know that these kind of wolf man, wolf beast, dog man stories, they happen all over the world. Now, apparently this documentary is really, really compelling, really interesting. It takes into account eyewitness accounts while also looking at folklore and tries to posit some theories about what the Bray Road Beast might actually be. Apparently it's pretty freaky too. This is a new series that just came out on BBC iPlayer and I really enjoyed it. It is a story about a family in Wales who live in a house that they believe to be haunted and lots of weird things happened. There's lots of documented evidence of things that happened. I came away from it feeling really conflicted and I think actually a good paranormal documentary should do that. It's called Paranormal, The Girl, the Ghost and the Gravestone, and the family's trouble all starts when they move a gravestone that was in their house. Well, it technically wasn't in their house, it was like leaning against their house, it was a whole thing. Anyway, they moved the gravestone, weird things start happening. And it's really quite a balanced, skeptical documentary. And I think the host, Shan O'Leary, asks the questions that I think you should ask. I don't ever think with paranormal stories that you should just assume that they are paranormal. I think they should be questioned and challenged, and she does that in a pretty direct but respectful way. And like I said, came away completely conflicted. Don't know what I believe about this one. The final one is pretty UK specific. I mean, this came out in 1992, and if you know, you know. Okay. I'm pretty sure you can still get Ghost Watch on like YouTube or whatever, but it was a documentary series that came out in 1992. Well, it was only one episode, but it was a documentation of poltergeist activity in what was alleged to be the most haunted house in Britain. And like, I'm pretty sure this documentary traumatized a nation. Yeah. Anyway, those are my paranormal documentaries that I think you should watch. Let me know if there are any paranormal documentaries that you recommend to people on a regular basis. And also, if you love ghost stories and spooky things in general, I have a podcast called Real Life Ghost Stories where I tell ghost stories and talk about spooky things in general. Go and listen to it. Thanks, bye.
You sent me a lot of pictures in my DMs, and truthfully, I do check through a lot of those. Michael, if you are watching, the pictures you sent me caught my eye. So he had sent me a series of pictures that he described were taken when him and his friends went to go explore an abandoned building. And that's exactly what this series of photos looked like, but there was one in particular that stood out. But before we jump in, if you are a fan of all things chilling, mysterious, and unexplained, please go check out my podcast, Creep Time the Podcast. The link right in my bio, and also, I made this ad today myself. Isn't it so good? Come on. Okay, let's get back to the picture. That photo that sent chills down my spine. Can't be 100% of what I'm looking at, but that looks like a face. That looks like a face, and this is a real picture. Didn't give me any further information about anything strange that happened. It seems like they just took these photos and then caught this oddity later. Wanted to illustrate for you just how clearly I see this in this picture.
Have you guys ever heard about the Poinciana woman? This is an urban legend that originated in Australia back in the 1950s. As the story goes, there once lived a beautiful Aboriginal woman that was SA'd by a bunch of Japanese fishermen. Once she realized that she had become pregnant, she decided to unalive herself by hanging from a Poinciana tree. From that point on, she was cursed to roam for all of eternity in search of men looking for blood. There have even been some recent sightings of her. This photo is believed to be the Poinciana woman. Now story time. For the sake of the story, we're going to call him Kyle. When Kyle was about 12 years old, he was home alone with his 10-year-old brother. Out of nowhere, his 10-year-old brother comes crashing into his room, frantically asking him, "Can you hear that? Can you hear that?" They made their way to the window where they can faintly hear a moan. It almost sounded like a hum. They hear as this thing starts moving around, going from window to window, the humming and the moaning getting louder. They ended up ducking down and trying to hide as best as they could while covering their ears because the moaning was so extremely loud, it was almost as if it was coming from inside their heads. This went on for about 10 minutes, and just how it started, it abruptly stopped.
The next day, they found out that their older brother had actually visited an army reserve and he had been out there taunting the Poinciana woman.
He had actually heard footsteps, but assuming that it was security, he took off. The Poinciana woman clearly did not find this amusing, and she decided to show up at his house, looking into each window in search of him. The even creepier part about this whole thing is that long after this happened, Kyle actually realized that they have a Poinciana tree right outside the window where they first heard her.
Have you heard this scary radio transmission people have been hearing? So Mark Connolly was in Grand Rapids last week when he heard something strange come over his radio that interrupted the music he was listening to. He described it as a man's voice but really low and just humming a simple tune that Mark had never heard before. It lasted like 3 seconds, but Mark said his dogs were freaking out when it came on. So Mark does what anyone does and he goes to the internet where he finds a Reddit thread from 2010 of another woman saying that she heard the exact same thing he did. That was the only thread he could find on the entire internet of someone hearing exactly what Mark had heard, and no one had replied to her Reddit thread. He also noticed that she stopped posting 3 weeks after she reported hearing the noise, and she had been posting like a lot before that. But now when you look it up, like 4 people within the last week have heard this noise all throughout the Midwest. And still, no one knows what it is, but they all say that it comes over usually a car radio around 11:30 at night.
I'm losing my mind over this. This could actually be a picture of the Lone Rock woman. There are these long-standing legends of Lone Rock Beach of a murderous woman who roams the beach at night and she goes after campers. These police descriptions of a woman with wild hair and these menacing eyes, but it's always just kind of been a story. There was never really any proof of this until a phone turned up on the beach. So 3 teenagers found an iPhone that was abandoned in the sand, and before they turned it in, they did what anybody would do. They would browse the camera roll. They ended up finding this unnerving photo of a woman who clearly took this photo with the self-timer, and she roughly seemed to match the description. When police eventually turned the phone back to the owner, they did not recognize the woman, and nobody else on that beach the day that the photo was taken seemed to spot her, leaving us with the question, could this be the only known photo of the murderous woman of Lone Rock Beach? I think a lot about the story behind this picture. No matter how many times I tell it, it's still chilling. In the 18th district of Hong Kong in the early 2000s, this picture was captured outside of an apartment window. What the news articles described was that witnesses saw her, she appeared to be having some kind of psychotic episode, and they thought that was the end of it. It was just a midday bizarre disruption. What they didn't know was that this person would become the primary suspect in one of the worst murders the 18th district would ever see. Roughly 40 minutes, maybe after that picture was taken, and about 2 miles from the location, a family home of 9 was broken into with only 1 person surviving that attack. Now, the sole survivor of the attack was able to give a witness testimony to the police. This is the only photo they've ever run of the suspect on television, but what he described she did almost sounded inhuman. Breaking bones, ripping people's jaws open with her bare hands, even a report that she tried to eat people. This frame is the only one we got of her.
Yo, what do you gotta be on to try to eat people? Like, every time I hear about, oh yeah, he was trying to eat people, I'm like, yo, what are you on? Like, it's not normal. Mostly uncooked. Like, you don't even eat uncooked food. So why an uncooked human? I mean, you shouldn't eat it. You know what I'm trying to say.
He thought the noise was his friends, but what he finds out will haunt you. In 2015, a college student sat alone in his friend's basement trying to get some work done, but as soon as he began, some strange noises echoed through the floorboards above him. It sounded like furniture was being moved. He attempted to shut it out, yet the noises kept getting louder and more unbearable. Unable to concentrate, he picked up his phone to text his friends upstairs. But as he typed out the message, a deep sense of dread washed over him, and his friend's reply was chilling. No one is home. We went to Wisconsin for the weekend. With his heart racing, the student stumbled out of the basement and ran to the nearest window. Peering inside, he saw the darkness of the empty house, with no sign of anyone being there. He had been completely alone the whole time. Follow for more creepy stories.
So I want to tell you about the story of Brittany Kilgore. Brittany Kilgore, she was 22 years old. She was married to a Marine. They kind of rushed into their marriage, and she ended up having like some regrets about it. She was planning on getting a divorce and moving back home, but she couldn't move all of her stuff by herself. So she asked for some help from one of the guys that lived on the base, Luis Perez, and he was like, well, listen, if you go out on a date with me, I'll help you. She's like, no. She shot him down a bunch of times. No, no, no. So eventually he was like, okay, listen, all you gotta do is go out with me. We'll go get on this dinner cruise thing. The next morning, I'll get a bunch of my Marine friends. We'll help you pack your stuff up. You can be out of here. And so eventually she was like, okay, whatever. I'll do it, right? So she was sending her friends messages saying he was creepy and all this stuff. He picked her up and she was never sending it.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. So I be trying to tell y'all, man, you gotta be careful who you be chilling, man. Mostly as a female, I feel like females have it a lot worse because, like, you really never know sometimes. Unless you really know the person, you really never know what you're getting into.
Unexplained caught on camera. Part 1.
You okay? What the hell? What the f*** is going on here? There ain't nobody there. Miss? Hello?
Watching that again, as Mark walks towards the car, you can hear what sounds like a woman crying.
You okay?
When he looks closer, there's no one in or around the car.
What the f*** is going on here? There ain't nobody there. Miss? Hello?
Despite only running through a wire fence, the car looks pretty badly damaged.
What the hell? What the f*** is going on here? There ain't nobody there. Miss? Hello?
So if there's no one in the car, then where's the crying coming from?
Yo, I know he was tripped out. He was like, yo, what the? You could even hear him. He was like, yo, what the hell? Yo, what's going on? No one was there. That's kind of strange.
Y'all, I got some more news for y'all. So just randomly, just out of nowhere, just randomly, y'all, why is Chris Brown live on Facebook? Y'all need to think about that for a second. He is literally live right now. In case something happens to him, you got that motherfucker on film. This can also be a scare tactic. She could be trying to make everybody who's buying the tickets, trying to go to Chris Brown's concert, trying to make them scared, to not make them be involved in this mess. And even trying to knock out Chris Brown's tour with, you know, how good he does in his shows. There is no reason for Chris Brown to be going live on Facebook. We all know why he's going live. He is trying to protect himself. And if anything happens to him, he has that motherfucker on film, y'all. Now, Chris Brown, you are very smart. You are very smart. Keep doing what you have to do, okay? Keep selling out these shows. Keep...
Bro, I had nothing else to say. He was like, just keep shutting out these shows, bro. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like all celebrities have stalkers, if I'm being honest. It's just some of them get close, some of them don't. That's why you gotta always have security.
Disturbing facts about the human body PT.6. After abdominal surgery, you'll notice your guts will seem to fall from one side to the other. Doctors have confirmed that those are your bowels rearranging themselves. You can die of a broken heart. You can have your heart broken and become ill to where your body goes into survival mode and can shut down major functions. After the age of 28, you are actively in the process of dying because your cells are being destroyed faster than they can be replaced. An estimated 60% of cancers arise from non-modifiable risk factors. In other words, they are not due to any lifestyle choices, and they are not preventable.
I mean, at least I'll have the peace of mind knowing that 60% of people that get cancer, it was just inevitable. Like, you know, no matter what your lifestyle is, you're bound to get it. I don't know if that's true, though, because I feel like a lot of people back in the day didn't really have cancer as much. What are your thoughts about that in the comments? Because I'm actually kind of curious.
Dead, she must have been out of her head.
Hi, my name is Ethan, and we'll be talking about disturbing facts so sinister I stopped sleeping. Number 1. Since the 1980s, there's been estimated over 220,000 unsolved serial killers in the United States. Number 2. When Disney first opened the new Pirates of the Caribbean ride in the 1960s, for props, they used real human skeleton remains. They claimed that the real ones were so much better than the props that they had. Eventually, they filtered them out and got fake ones. Number 3. Mount Everest is not only the highest viewpoint in the world, but it's also the highest graveyard. It's estimated that there are over 150 bodies buried in the snow.
Disturbing facts you wish you never knew. You have tiny skin mites that come out at night and do the thing on your face. A 10-second kiss on the lips can pass on 80 million bacteria, some unknown to scientists. Good thing you don't have to worry about that. Certain kinds of tumor called teratoma can cause your body to grow teeth and hair around it. When Eskimo babies have colds, their mother sucks the snot out of their nose with their mouth. Yummy. People who stay up at night are more likely to become psychopaths compared to those who sleep early. So please go to sleep now.
Disturbing facts about Disney that will leave you shocked. 18-year-old actress who voiced Snow White was paid less than $1,000 to do it. She also was not credited. The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland used real skulls in its set design when it first opened. Actress who played Lilo in Lilo and Stitch also played Samara in The Ring. Part of Your World was almost cut from The Little Mermaid because the chair of Walt Disney Studios was afraid that kids would think that the song was boring. Stan from Beauty and the Beast in the 1995 version was the first male villain in any Disney princess movie. After Finding Nemo came out, there was a problem with kids around the world flushing their fish down the toilet so that they could go back to the ocean. The music on the It's a Small World ride never, ever turns off. Follow for more facts.
But what exactly is going on here? Why are these artists so comfortable with telling you guys that you're going to hell?
So let me explain something to them real quick. Before everybody starts screaming and saying, oh, like I told y'all earlier, you motherfuckers enter the rapture. And if ain't nobody flying up to heaven right now, obviously all y'all motherfuckers going to hell. Right with me. So let's get it. I'm so sorry, you can't get out. You're stuck. It's over. You heard the song 1,000,000 times and you didn't even know.
And then say you're still going to listen to their music anyway, so why even bring it up?
We bring up when people say like devil worshiper or anything, but how's the music? Because it'll be a motherfucker that'll be like, Uzi, get with God. And then I'll drop a song and like, damn.
Comment amen right now to ward off any evil spirits coming from these videos. And what's up with everybody doing this hand symbol? Like, this was never a trend. I never saw any of my friends doing this pose. What does it mean and what are you trying to say? And I don't want to hear this just a pose. It's not like the peace sign. And check this out.
I was hitting a block, right? I was like, oh, I'm not doing it right? So I went in the corner and then I was looking at the wall and I was like, come on, devil, right? Come to me, because I had to do something like crazy, right? Had nightmares for a month.
So let me get this straight. You really need to call upon the devil in order to help you act better for a role. Again, we can't act oblivious like something weird isn't going on here. But let me know, am I tripping? Am I crazy? And make sure to follow because part 2 is about to get a lot more crazy.
I don't really have much to say about that. I just wanted to say that I do not like Uzi's music like that. Like Lil Uzi, the guy that was like, oh, they'll say that you're a devil worshiper, but like, you know, you'll still listen to music. I'm like, dude, I don't even listen to your music like that. Like, get out of here.
NASA have just announced the discovery of an Earth-sized planet that they say could be habitable. It's called TOI 700e, fucking great name. It's 95% of Earth's size, likely rocky, and it falls within what they call the Goldilocks habitable zone. This is apparently where the distance between the planet and the star that it orbits is at a perfect point that can sustain liquid water, meaning that the conditions could be just right for life to exist. So the question is this just overhyped, or is 2023 about to get...
4 of the most horrifying things we've ever found on beaches. Number 1, a sack containing 54 severed human hands. I don't really know, like, I don't have words to describe how horrifying this is, and I could not imagine just like finding a bag on the beach and opening it up and be like, oh look, human hands, but this happened in Siberia. Number 2, famine victims. Basically a bunch of human bones washed up onto a beach, and they were actually from something called a coffin ship, which were a bunch of ships that kind of left Ireland during the potato famine where everyone was starving to death and dying, and we found some human bones on a beach. Number 3, a dead sperm whale filled with plastic. Now that might not sound horrifying, but if you think about it, there's so much plastic in the ocean that it took down the largest toothed predator currently on our planet. That is horrifying that it is that present in our ocean and that deadly. For the Montauk monster, people hypothesize that this deformed looking creature was everything from a chupacabra to the missing link, but basically it's just a really deformed raccoon. As horrifying as that like looks, it's just literally a trash can.
Disturbing facts you didn't want to hear, part 2. Many doctors say that the most common last words they hear are, I don't feel so good. Most laugh tracks you hear in TV shows were recorded in the 1950s, meaning that the people you hear laughing are probably dead. During the French Revolution, it was said that the guillotine had to be used multiple times to get the job done. The reason that planes shut off their lights right before they land is so that passengers' eyes can adjust to the dark just in case there's a crash. This is so if the power goes out during the crash landing, they can better find an escape route.
Whatever you do, do not answer this phone call. This is John Pork. Now, he's supposedly a CGI generated influencer with an unsettling appearance. He seems to be half man, half swine. The creature posts videos of himself dancing and traveling around the world to popular tourist locations. But this is where things get scary. You see, John used to call everybody, but nobody would answer before he was sadly unalive. Yeah, John is no longer with us. He had went out for a night of fun and tragically was unalived. After this, people have been getting strange calls from a haunting contact that says John Pork. And if you answer, this is what happens. Before I tell you, I know this food look good. I'm sorry, I can't share. But here's what we're gonna do. Your fourth at has to make or buy you food for the rest of this month, since I made you suffer. Let me know who it is. Supposedly, if you answer the call of John Pork, you'll summon him from the dead, and at midnight, he'll appear.
These are facts that will make your skin crawl, part 1. Up first, did you know that women can actually give birth after death? It's extremely rare, but it's called coffin birth. Up next, everybody has definitely heard of the 5-second rule and probably applied it in your life at least once. But did you know in those 5 seconds, minor insects can still crawl on your food after you drop it on the floor, pick it up, and then eat it? Up next, if a black cat looks at you and then suddenly runs away, it means that something unusual is about to happen to you. So if this happened to you recently, then I recommend just staying in your room and not leaving. Finally, did you know that a cockroach can live 9 days without its head before it starves to death? This is absolutely crazy, and as weird as this sounds, I have to see it to believe it.
Truth Through Media Part 4. At the end of the Men in Black movie, they zoom out to show the viewers the immense size of the universe, and then show our universe within a marble, and a being throwing this marble, and then picking up our marble with our universe in it, and putting it in a bag full of other marbles. This was not by accident. Now, don't forget that scientists around the world are now disclosing, including NASA, that the universe is a living being and they're working to understand it. So really, we are small, puny creatures living inside or on a giant creature. Just like the cells in our body, how they have lives of their own, including the bacteria and viruses within us, we are the same in a way. But this is what I mean by science is working to understand it, because even people that channel extraterrestrials say that they don't even fully understand the life of this grand being. I think this is so cool because it doesn't just say that we live in a giant being, but that everything small is just a small version of something big. Now y'all see why I'm a nerd, right? This is me thinking. Really, we don't fully understand what this greater being is and how it lives and why we live within inside of it. All we know is that it exists.
It's crazy because in life there's always going to be like something way smaller or something way bigger. Like to bacteria, we're probably like gods to these people. Like they probably don't even know we exist, if I'm being honest. Or do they?
Here are 3 indie horror games that will actually terrify you, with number 1 being the scariest of the 3 games. At number 3, we have The Pony Factory. A machine from hell turns people into disgusting abominations that resemble horses. You have a nail gun and you have to take them out, but here's the catch. The game is dark and you can only either hold your flashlight or your gun at a time. Number 2 is The Prototype. You have to test a children's robotic toy and things start to go wrong. As you play, more of the story is revealed, and this is the part of the game that's actually scary. I won't spoil the story here, but I have a full playthrough of this game on my channel if you're interested. And at number 1, we have Slide in the Woods. Man, this game. You're in a park and you slide down the slide over and over again. But then the more times you go down the slide, the more things start to change in the world around you. Like at first it was daytime, and then all of a sudden it's night. And then once when you slide down, everything changes and it is terrifying. This game is free. Please try it out for yourself and go in blind.
I did mention that I was going to start streaming. Would you guys actually watch that? Like, let's say I play some spooky game like that. Like, you see how he said, like, you can go down a slide and your world changes, or like the one where you shoot the thing with the whatever. Like, would you guys watch that? I feel like it would be very entertaining, because I'd be playing the game like, yo, what the, you know what I'm saying? And it'd be dark as hell in here. But yo, I'm not trying to, scary games are just always entertaining to me. So that'd be kind of cool to stream. I'll still make videos like this, of course.
Daisy, Daisy. Give me your answer, do.
Scary fun facts until the Orbeez overflow. If there was a zombie apocalypse, we'd be outnumbered 15-1. There was a chicken named Mike that lived for 18 months with no head. Yellowstone volcano would cover almost the entire country if it erupted, and it's well overdue. There's a brain-eating organism known as Naegleria fowleri that lives in lakes and rivers in southern United States. Only one man survived the electric chair, and he said death tastes like peanut butter. Ladybugs eat half their larvae to ensure the survival of the other half, like a natural Thanos. And it looks like I'm out of time. Follow for more fun facts.
So I found these conspiracy theories that are so believable, they actually might be true. Number 1, studies show that cats understand human commands but don't care to follow them. Yeah, I don't like cats. I'm a dog kind of guy. Number 2, it is believed that when you die in a dream, you wake up because your brain doesn't know how to process the idea of what comes after death. Could be. I believe it. Number 3, now this is scary. The reason Disney came out with a movie called Frozen was so that when you Googled Disney Frozen, you would get information about the movie and not the websites talking about Walt Disney's body being frozen. I mean, I did see an article about this that was published in 1995. Not sure if this is true or not, but I do believe it. This is where it gets freaky. Number 4, Mike Tyson's fight, Time Traveler. This fight was in 1995. If you look closely, you can see that that could be a smartphone. In fact, it does look like a smartphone to me. There were no smartphones in 1995. This is how phones used to look like in 1995. They didn't have cameras. They barely had any color. But this thing double flashed. Exactly like how an iPhone or an Android would take a picture. I don't know about time travel, but this is very interesting. I'd really like to know what this thing was. What's the creepiest conspiracy theory that you heard of?
Let's talk about the terrifying lore surrounding the various creatures of the horror game Iron Lung. It's important to start with the fact that Iron Lung takes place entirely underneath the surface of a blood ocean on the moon. And this blood ocean is thought to be completely empty. However, it's not empty at all, and the first creature I want to talk about is this one right here. This is the one that burst through your ship at the very end of the game, but he's actually seen much earlier. So it's implied that he follows the path of your submarine through the entire game. Next is the most iconic moment of the game when you first see this eye on your camera. It belongs to a giant whale-like creature, but how do we know that? The giant whale skeletons on the surface of the blood ocean tell us that there might be many of these creatures, and this portal into the void gives us an idea of where they might be coming from.
Hey, remember this nonsense of the cheetah gator? Yeah, this was real and there was a time where it was everyone's problem. Its actual name is the Orari Pasukas, and his hood is in what is now South America and Africa. And the memes are true, he was a land op, meaning he would run his prey down. Scientists believe the Orari Pasukas would have galloped after its prey. Luckily for everything around it, it was actually a mini-me that only grew to about 3 to 5 feet long, and it probably only ate small lizards, mammals, and dinosaur hatchlings. Now, if this guy pulled up on you, it would be a very different movie. Caprosuchus saharicus was a 23-foot middle finger with teeth that looked like it belonged to a feral pig, which is actually why they were nicknamed the boar croc. And unlike crocodiles today, whose eyes are at the top of their head, the Caprosuchus' eyes were more lateral. You might not realize it, but that's very bad, because instead of just hiding in the water with just its eyes above the surface, this assault weapon with teeth had binocular vision and depth perception, meaning not only was it catching bodies on land, it was probably chasing them down too. And unlike its smaller cousin, it probably clapped dinosaurs.
And if Google's right, this 23-foot monster with board jaws would have been almost as fast as Usain Bolt, and they would have attacked you by slamming their snout into you like a sledgehammer. The only reason they're not around today is even nature knows when it's gone too far.
This is a disturbing story about Jeannie Wiley. The young girl seen in this photo's name is Jeannie Wiley, otherwise known as the feral child barely able to walk at 13. For her entire life, her father had abused her insanely viciously, keeping her in a makeshift straitjacket and tying her to a children's toilet in a locked room all day. And when she did anything or made any sound that he didn't like, he'd growl at her and bare his teeth like a dog. Under such brutal conditions, Wiley never learned how to walk or speak, which is actually just so inhumane. When this photo was taken of her after she was rescued and taken to a hospital, her life inside a series of abusive institutions was only beginning. Today, Jeannie Wiley lives in an adult foster care home somewhere in Southern California. Nobody knows about her present condition, but in 2000, somebody hired a private investigator to find her, and they described her as kind of happy.
Did you know people who stay up late and get up late are more likely to become psychopaths? Hello, and here's some creepy facts. Most laugh tracks and shows are from people in the 50s, which means you are hearing the laughter of dead people. If you wake up between 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. for no apparent reason, there's a 90% chance something was staring at you. Lack of sleep will shrink your brain. 70% of your dreams contain hidden meanings. On average, people escape death about 6 times through their life without knowing it. You're always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. Your body is the weakest between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. as this is the time most people die in their sleep. If you shiver for no reason, then it means a spirit is passing near you. Heartbreak is a real thing known as broken heart syndrome, and the symptoms are similar to a heart attack. Your phone has a very tiny camera that watches your every move. Every time you sneeze, you skip a heartbeat.
It's crazy that he said that every time you don't sleep, your brain shrinks, but I always think about it like this. They said Einstein's brain was smaller than the average humans. So it's weird. So in my head, I'm thinking like having a smaller sized brain would technically make you smarter, right? I don't know. I'm a little bit confused on that. If you know, put your thoughts in the comments.
Talk about a disturbing entity in Silent Hill that blurs the line between an angel and a demon. Valtiel. Valtiel's name basically means God's servant, and that's exactly what he does. Throughout the entirety of Silent Hill 3, he follows Heather Mason everywhere, just watching and waiting. But what exactly is he waiting for? Remember, Valtiel is a being that serves God, and the antagonists in Silent Hill 3 are trying to resurrect God by using Heather Mason. So every time the player dies in Silent Hill 3, Valtiel drags Heather Mason off screen and revives her. And at the end of the game, when Heather Mason gets rid of the god growing inside of her, Valtiel steps in and forces the ritual to happen anyway, which births a disfigured version of God. There are also some theories that Valtiel may be related to Pyramid Head in some way, but I'm not too sure about that after researching.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There are thousands of old diseases frozen in the glaciers of the world, and global warming will eventually release them all. If a person dies in their costume at Disney, like Mickey Mouse, they have to be sat down on a bench so it looks like they're resting. Climate change is making spiders bigger. Some female spiders allow their young to eat them alive. Tooth in the eye surgery is when surgeons put a tooth in a blind person's eye to restore their sight. It was pioneered in the 1960s, and it actually works, and it's still being done today. The chances of a successful CPR outside of a hospital is only 7%. Cell phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. When you suddenly wake up during the night without any reason, there was someone or something staring at you. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 12.
Alright, bro, we get it. You wake up at 3 a.m. randomly, someone is looking at you, bro. That's like the 3rd time I heard the fact that this video. Like, We get it.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. Registered nurse Shirley Smith said that she had a very rich patient who was a true Satanist that was dying of cancer. The patient had upside down crosses and a Satan's Bible by her bedside. Shirley said that she will never forget what happened. It was the middle of the summer, and yet it was so cold and dark in her room that you couldn't even stand it, even in the middle of the day. She said that it got so evil feeling in there that she had to call a priest to pray with her and her aides before they would even enter the room. When the patient passed away, she had not spoken in over 24 hours. And then all of the sudden, she sat straight up and said, "Satan, take me." And then she fell back on the bed. Shirley said that after she passed, the room got bright and extremely warm. Shockingly, when they moved the patient's body, they had to get rid of the mattress because where her body had been, it looked burnt. And the most horrible smell was emanating from the mattress cover. Needless to say, Shirley went to confession immediately because she did not want an evil spirit around her. A nurse said that one of their patients had a serious recurrence and had to be admitted. Over the course of several nights, he had become quite upset during rounds. He kept asking for his wallet, saying that he had to pay the ferryman. The medical student on rotation in the department took a quarter out of his pocket and put it in the patient's hand. The patient then dropped the coin into the cup on his bedstand and calmed down. Later that night, he passed away quietly. The nurse asked what happened. The medical student, who remembered his Greek mythology, said that the patient had to pay Charon, the ferryman, to be taken across the river Styx. A nurse said that he was doing rounds at a hospital. There was one two-patient room, and one of the patients was a very loud and confused woman who could be quite a handful. On this particular night, she had a roommate who had passed away shortly before the nurse entered the room. She was DNR, so there was no code blue. When he entered the room, he noticed that the elderly lady, who was usually very loud and confused, was sitting quietly with her hands crossed neatly upon her lap. Something was different, and there was this look of serenity on her face. She asked him in a voice that seemed much younger and clearer than before, "Did you see them, young man? They're so beautiful." He said, "No, ma'am, there's no one else here." She said, "They're right next to you, talking to Mrs. Banneker. The angels. They're so beautiful." He said that he instantly felt every hair of his body stand up, and an electric tingle course up and down his spine. "They're not here for me this time," she said.
So they do say that every person that's about to die, they do hallucinate a little bit. They might see people from their past. They might see things that don't exist. So I feel like those stories are cases of something like that. My personal philosophy, I guess you could say.
This girl got cut into 2,000 pieces, and this is a massive trigger warning. On January 19th, 1996, the mutilated remains of Diao Aquing, who disappeared 9 days prior, were found across multiple locations in China. Her body had been dismembered into over 2,000 pieces. The case remains unsolved, and it's one of the most notorious crimes in Chinese history. On January 10th, 1996 in the evening, Diao and her college roommate were punished for the illegal use of an electric appliance. After a conflict with the dormitory management, she left the building and did not return. Diao was last seen alive wearing a red coat with a black lining. She was reported missing, but her family was not notified by the authorities until January 19th. The discovery of Diao's remains in the winter of January 19th was first reported by a sanitary worker. Initially, he thought it was pork, so he brought it home for food. And while preparing the meat for himself, 3 human fingers were found in it. The worker then reported the discovery to the police, and they confirmed they were human fingers. Human remains in plastic-wrapped packages were eventually discovered across 8 locations around the university, including at a stadium, entrance gate, hospital, and along roadsides. The police later confirmed that the scattered remains were of Diao's and informed her father to visit Nanjing. Between January 20th and 30th, Diao's head and clothes were found. More than 2,000 human remains were recovered. Diao's head and internal organs were boiled for several days. Crucial organs including the heart, liver, and spleen were never found. The forensics team was only able to identify the remains as belonging to a female through the analysis of body hair and muscle tissue. Relatives of Diao were able to identify her through a mole on her right cheek.
A senior officer involved in the case described the killing as really cruel, which in my opinion is a nice way to put it. The officer also added that the pieces of flesh were dissected with high precision, only achieved by an individual with great understanding of anatomy. Police concluded that the murderer must have been a professional butcher or surgeon. Teachers and students then became the subject of investigation. 2 suspect profiles were brought up, including a single physical fit middle-aged male. However, the university department could not find any individuals that matched the characteristics of the profile. A major investigation was launched in the university and the areas around, but no major clues of the crime were found and the case failed to make any progress. In 2016, Nanjing police told the family of Diao that the case is still under investigation. Okay, so let's talk about this case for a second. If the killer was never found and he had the skill to dissect somebody into 2,000 pieces and never get caught with it, don't you think he might be a serial killer? And if he was, how many more people do you think he murdered after Diao? The dedication and skill, and honestly the obsession to cut somebody into 2,000 pieces and not get caught with it is crazy. This person could be walking around the streets of China today doing the same things to other people that he did to Diao. The thought of that is absolutely disturbing, and may Diao rest in peace.
That is absolutely crazy and horrifying. Like 2,000 pieces? I feel like he was a butcher, if I'm being honest.
These are kids' toys that got banned, part 3. Up first is this toy. This toy was called Potty Time with Elmo, and it was supposed to help kids go to the bathroom, but instead it took a disturbing turn. One of the buttons was supposed to say, uh-oh, who has to go? But instead it said, uh-oh, who wants to die? Here is that video.
It does say some phrases, though, that toddlers probably shouldn't be hearing. Here's what Elmo was supposed to say. But several books came with this sound instead. Elmo laughs, ha ha ha, and then he says, who wants to die?
Dude, what do you even do in that situation? I wonder if getting off the bike was the best idea, though. Because I'm thinking about it like, dude, you're getting chased by a bear? You think running on foot is going to save you? Hell no. What could you even do in that situation? If you know, put your thoughts in the comments. Because personally, I have a lot of woods around me. You know, if I ever see a bear, I'm kind of trying to like live. So, you know, your advice would be very helpful. That video looks so fake. It's so ironic that she looks at the camera and as soon as she turns around, there's just a panda mask that looks through the fake.
Can I show you a scary video? Quick trigger warning, do not try this at home. So in 2019, this trend went viral, where apparently if you told your Alexa Simon says ha ha ha, it sounded so weird saying that, I'm so sorry, it'll start acting possessed. Let me just show you the video. Here it is.
Simon says ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I actually tried that back in 2019 and it really did say that. It was like, ah ha ha. It felt like it was like choking on.
Now look at this.
Wait for it.
Kita tak dapat lagi pasuk wifi. Nampaknya bateri sudah mau habis bah. Charge. Torch. Sekejap awak semua. Saya kasih charge dulu. sana dulu nak on ni. Sebelum ni ialah Mia punya bank. Seru. Oh, pantai. Sorry. Ya. Okay, stop.
Are there other people that live down here with you? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Did you say Ratman? Are you the Ratman, Bill?
It's just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad.
Yo, that Tiptoe song is so popular for all the horror movies now. It's like damn.
This is the scariest video on TikTok. So the video is just that trend where you play a scary audio and then you trap someone in a room and record the reaction. Now normally in these videos they'll have like a fake ghost effect, but this one's a little different because it has probably the creepiest thing I've ever seen in a TikTok, and that is this woman. She just stands there and stares the entire time, like she barely moves at all. She's so still the whole time, people are debating whether or not she's even real. Now looking deeper into the account, the woman seems to just be this lady, but they also post a lot of paranormal videos about things that happen in their house, like pictures moving on their own and creepy stuff like that. So maybe this lady is really just a ghost, but I'll let y'all decide that.
Wait, am I the only person that just caught that contradiction? This man said, you know, this lady right here, she's just this lady, but actually, is she really just a ghost? Like, bro, you literally just showed us a picture of her posting on TikTok. Like, she's just obviously doing it for the views.
Daisy, give me your answer. I
be all for the love of you. It would be a pilot marriage. I had for the carriage.
So you're telling me that this represented Joan of Arc, a dark, mysterious hooded figure riding a dark, mysterious horse, doesn't represent this? I mean... And you're telling me that this right here didn't represent this? Cause God, they look really familiar, don't they? Gotta love that headdress too, right? And you're telling me that Snoop Dogg, that just so happened to carry the torch to begin with, wearing this, has nothing to do with it either? Oh, because he's the GOAT of hip-hop, supposedly, right? Supposedly, the Olympics said that the performance was an interpretation of the Greek god Dionysus to make us aware of the absurdity of violence between human beings. Violence that definitely wasn't created from a certain deity that aims to mock religion, right? You know, it's funny, so many people are trying to say, oh, well, this is Dionysus and the 12 Olympians. Dionysus wasn't even officially confirmed as an Olympian. And even if he was, and even if that was an interpretation of the 12 Olympians, it has nothing to do with the Olympics to begin with. And even if this did somehow resemble Joan of Arc, right? Does anybody even know the background of Joan of Arc? Kind of like how they made a movie for Napoleon, and then have him shooting at the pyramid in the movie. Is it all of a sudden okay to put your own takes on history? Oh, I forgot, it's a movie, my bad. A movie based on a historical character, but you know, whatever. This entire night was just very confusing, was it not? So many things made absolutely no sense at all. I mean, they literally raised the Olympic flag upside down. Oh my God. Hey, but Palestine showed up, right? That was a beautiful sight to see. But regardless, if you just so happen to think that this was a work of art, you might want to rethink your reality.
He said it, you might want to rethink your reality. Yeah, man, I heard that the Olympics was kind of strange. I mean, I didn't look too much into it, but based off of the videos I've seen on TikTok and stuff, it's just like, what the hell are they planning? What they got going on over there? If you guys have any thoughts about that, put your thoughts down in the comments. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked the video, remember to like the video, like the chain, check the link down in the description. Look out for my stream coming next week. Promise. Peace out. Stay tuned.